We never know where life will lead us or what may hinder us along the way. But while every day can feel like one big question mark, it doesn't have to. With the right insights, strategies, and solutions from Western and Southern Financial Group, together we can look ahead to leave the unknown behind.
What's Pro Football Focus doing? Last week they had Brady. This week they got Brady.
We're literally doing it differently from everybody else.
As a matter of fact, moving forward from this point on, I will not make reference to PFF.
Do you not understand that they are that way because you're Joe Flacco?
And you just like to discredit things that people deserve credit for.
That you can't possibly be expected to defend that.
Talk about the game, Sam. So who cares about what people think about us?
Yeah, I like football, I like football season, all the things that go with
it. Welcome into the PFF NFL podcast. Steve Palazzolo here with Sam Monson, going through all of the Week 10 action. That was a better intro.
What was the up and down and...
I don't know.
Just,
I'm in a slump. Sometimes I'm like, Mahomes was in a slump for a few weeks.
You got the intro and outro yips?
I do. Just can't hit it.
Can't dial it in.
Can we do we're live.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're going through all the games. You ready to go?
Yeah.
How you doing?
Good. You?
Yeah, great. Excellent.
Nice little haircut there. Yeah.
Got a little trim.
Yeah.
Went to Liz.
Uh-huh.
Got a trim. I saw Katie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that must be.
We don't make eye contact anymore. I mean, she did way worse than this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Liz at least did this one on purpose. So if she screwed up, it's on me.
That's true.
Anyway, we talked about the Thursday night game. Sometimes we do. We did talk about it on the daily on Friday. The crazy Dolphins win 22-10 over the Baltimore Ravens. Best play in NFL football history.
That didn't count.
That didn't count. The Robert Hunt play. And just talking about the Ravens and what to do in the AFC North. But high level, the NFL right now is just wide open, huh? I mean, everything
Nothing
the
makes
last few
sense.
weeks.
Yeah. Nothing makes sense. Anybody can beat anybody. Nobody's good.
Nobody's great. There's a lot of good, not great.
It's madness top to bottom.
Yeah, there's usually a point in the season where you start to separate, right? Teams start to separate, and it's actually gone the opposite way. It was like teams were separated early, and now, I don't know, everybody's just moving. Everybody's close. Everybody's close, AFC and NFC.
Despite, every week, there's 5 or 6 games with a double-digit point spread.
Right, and it still doesn't matter.
And then they all equalize anyway.
And we had a tie this week.
Yes.
We'll always love a good tie. So let's get into all the games. Let's start with where do you want to go? Do you want to start anywhere in particular?
No. On you go.
In the order I have them in ultimate, it is the exciting Cowboys 43-3 game.
Perfect.
Cowboys 43, Falcons 3. My Falcons let me down again. Soon as you start to believe in the Falcons.
Eric was on board as well. I was like, we need to just stop betting on the Falcons.
Yeah.
Ever. From now on, there are no bets that go on the Falcons because it comes back to haunt you. It's just not worth doing.
And it's not a coach thing. It wasn't like, well, this was a Dan Quinn thing. It's a Falcons thing. Arthur Smith is there. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. This is inherent in the organization. It is not a product of any individual. It's just some kind of taint on the team.
This is what makes the NFL so tough to figure out, right? Because if this had happened last week, you would say, oh, of course. I mean, Cowboys are trending in the right direction. They even won a game with a backup. Their defense is unbelievable in recent weeks and stepping up and forcing turnovers and all this stuff, right? It made sense if this was a week ago.
Mm-hmm.
But last week happened when they were, they essentially lost 30-0 to the Broncos before 2 garbage time touchdowns, right? So they were losing 30-0 to the Broncos last week at home. Doesn't make any sense.
No. And the thing is, so this week for me, there were a ton of games where weird things happened early and it completely determined the course the game was going to go. And it's like, for all the logic and dissecting and analysis we do of football, it is still such an incredibly random game that is driven, the critical numbers in betting and point spreads, it's like 3 points, a field goal, 7 points, a touchdown. Any one of which, beyond that, these double-digit point spreads, we're like, this is a blowout game, 2 scores. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And those can happen in 2 plays immediately, right at the start. And all of a sudden, the game is completely different to the way it was supposed to go. 2 teams that were relatively evenly matched, one of them can find themselves double digits down after a couple of plays, and all of a sudden, the game is it's just not the same. So in this game, the Cowboys come out and first play is a nice bubble screen or whatever to CD Lamb. Like the next play, Dak Prescott almost throws a pick 6. Like literally threw it right to the DB, broke on it, made a play. If he catches that, he's going all the way back to the end zone. It's a score. Either the next play or like one of the next couple of throws, he's high and late to the flat. It's not quite as risky, but could easily have been a real problem. So all of it, you're like right at the start, ooh, Dak's starting this game the way he started the last game, or the way he played the last game. This could be trouble. Then eventually, because he doesn't get punished for either of those, they score on that drive. And from that point on, it was like, all right, now the Cowboys are in rhythm. Atlanta couldn't get anything done. But it's just like, how much would that game have been different if it had started with a pick 6 and Atlanta go ahead, rather than Dallas score a touchdown on that drive instead? Like, just the fine margins. I mean, and this...
Maybe it only would have been 35-10.
Maybe. Or maybe, this was a game where Atlanta would have carried on rolling and Dallas would have been in this funk for the whole game again. But this was one of a number of games this week where it felt like the start of the game sort of completely determined how it was going to go.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely had a huge impact. Then you just saw CD Lamb take over in the red zone, 2 touchdowns. One was a beautiful throw by Dak, right along the sideline. Another one where CD really winning at the catch point in the end zone. Saw Michael Gallup come back with 3 catches for 42 yards. Really watch the Cowboys offense, do what they have been doing, for the majority of the season before the Denver game. Spread the ball around, playmakers all over the field, and whoever the open guy is. They had 4 guys with over 40 yards, including Tony Pollard coming out of the backfield. So other than those first couple throws, Dak played a really clean game. And then, on the other side, every time, the reason why we're talking about the Falcons kind of breaking my heart here, Sam, it does feel like they start to find a rhythm. You see what they're able to do with Cordell Patterson and with Kyle Pitts, and then Matt Ryan had that stretch, right? We love to do this. Oh, over the last 4 weeks, over the last 3 weeks. And Matt Ryan had been one of the better quarterbacks. He's got 2 games over 90, 2 other games over 80. Yesterday, a 46 grade after, he started the season slow, had a bunch of games under 65. So he's just all over the place. Matt Ryan, early in the season, this is like the narrative stuff, right? Early in the season, Matt Ryan looked like, he's a little old, he's losing it, and then he bounces back. And now back to really struggling again, and the Cowboys took advantage. They had 2 interceptions, and then one of Josh Rosen as well in relief, just for
you gotta love Josh Rosen, the guy toiling away, still clinging onto a roster, eventually gets in the game late in garbage time, still finds it in him to throw the ball away.
1 for 6. 1 for 6 with a pick.
The other interesting thing of this game is Dallas actually did a pretty good job of hiding Terrence Steele. Like, they got passes were coming out quick. There were a ton of bubble screens all day long.
This was your key to the game.
I know. And actually, it ended up going in the opposite direction. So they did a good job of hiding him. They had a lot of help as well, tight ends, chip blocks, all those kinds of things. So Steele actually wasn't a factor at all. Also, by the way, as much as they hit him, like, Atlanta's pass rush was wretched. Like, Dante Fowler, okay, you have been an underachieving, high pick for your entire career. You had the one big year because Aaron Donald was next to you. This was a pretty bad indictment. Like, if you can't beat up Terrence Steele one-on-one when you get those opportunities, what are you even doing here?
This is what I was saying.
So Atlanta couldn't capitalize that. And then on the other side, despite Dallas, missing all of their defensive ends, how much of a boost or just a bonus to that defense is it to know that whenever you run out of edge rushers, you can just kick Micah Parsons down to the D-line and watch him absolutely wreck a right tackle for an entire game.
Fantastic.
So that ended up being like the one-on-one matchup that actually had a huge impact in the game. Parsons goes down and just beats the crap out of Caleb McGarry at right tackle consistently all game long. And that was like a genuine thorn in the side of the offense of Atlanta.
Yeah, I think Parsons. There's really not a lot of NFL players like him. When he came out, just to remember what happened during draft season, I always like to make the point that a linebacker in a 3-4, like an outside linebacker, is not really a linebacker, right? That's an edge rusher, and very rarely do you actually take a linebacker and have him rush the passer. I mean, literally a handful of times over the last 10 years do you see guys actually make that transition. Dante Hightower was the one that I kept bringing up that the Patriots used because out of necessity, same thing, right? Sometimes they would drop him down to become an edge rusher, and he could at least hold his own because it's a completely different skill set. Well, Parsons can legitimately do both. And, when DeMarcus Lawrence is healthy, all of a sudden, the Cowboys have a ton of weapons up front as far as rushing the passer goes.
And we've seen some players kind of have a split role, certainly since PFF has been grading, but it's never really been a genuine sort of we can put him in either position depending on where we need it. Like, remember when Von Miller at the start of his career would play like 2 downs as an off-the-ball linebacker and then kick down to rush the passer on 3rd downs. And because of that, there were situations where like a team like the Patriots could essentially determine where he was going to be and say, okay, we're not going to let you rush the passer effectively. But even Von Miller was like, at no point were you ever thinking, well, maybe,
that was like the old school Sam.
That's what I mean.
He was a pass rusher.
You were never going to go into a game saying we've had a couple of injuries at linebacker, so Von Miller is going to spend the entire game at linebacker as an off-the-ball guy and never be a factor as a pass rusher. Whereas Micah Parsons and the Cowboys, I mean, when they have all of their defensive ends healthy, they will genuinely just play him off the ball. He will almost never come down on the line of scrimmage and rush the passer. And then you have a game like this where you run out of all those guys. You've got a huge amount of injuries there, and all of a sudden Parsons basically doesn't play linebacker. Like, you're now playing defensive end for this game. I don't remember a player that's been able to do that in the last 15 years.
Legitimately, yeah.
Seriously. I know there have been players that have swapped between the two and been okay either side, but I cannot think of a player that's been able to do both at the same time and essentially week to week could play different positions like that.
I want to bring a little context to Trevon Diggs having another interception.
Uh-oh.
When you watch the play, as I'm rewatching it, there's a little bit of pressure on Matt Ryan. Trevon Diggs is actually beaten on the play by Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts has leverage on the out route. He's open. The other thing that's happening here is the jet motion receiver is wide open down the sideline. So Matt Ryan has essentially 3 options here, okay? He's under pressure.
You should draw it up as one of those, what did Ryan do?
So you have the jet sweep receiver is open for probably a 60-yarder.
Okay. That's a pretty good A.
You have Kyle Pitts open for probably 15, good 15-yard gain on Trevon Diggs. Or you have Trevon Diggs open for an interception.
Trevon Diggs open.
Yeah.
Now, remind me, he plays for the opposite
Diggs
team.
is on the Cowboys.
Okay.
So you've got 2 open Falcons for big gains, and you have a Cowboy defender.
Okay.
And Matt Ryan, he didn't choose. He was kind of he wasn't even forced off his spot. He's just kind of like leaning away. He's not a Jameis throw.
No.
Or a Josh Allen throw.
I don't think he has the flexibility for a Jameis.
He's just fading away just a little bit. His accuracy is affected. This is a good example. The pressure made this play here, actually. Anyway, the Trevon Diggs interception, he was beaten on that. But the dude has been a magnet for footballs. And he goes up and makes the catch. So it's just an example where Matt Ryan was off. I mean, it was already 36-3 at this point, but this was like the final nail for the Falcons in this game. But Diggs got the interception and keeping that hype high.
It was a fun matchup, though. Like Diggs and Kyle Pitts were one-on-one a few times in the game.
Yeah, Diggs gave up 3 out of the 8 first downs in coverage that the Cowboys gave.
Which again, though, just kind of shows how it shows the kind of attention that Kyle Pitts is drawing. Like, he's getting number 1 cornerbacks one-on-one in man coverage against teams like Dallas and everybody else. Like, he's just a fascinating player at this point.
The guys who did perform well for Dallas, though, Jordan Lewis. You mentioned Micah Parsons. Jordan Lewis and Anthony Brown, top coverage grades coming out of there for the Cowboys. And just a very impressive all-around win. And like you said, the Micah Parsons factor, what he's able to do lining up all over the place. Incredible pass rush grade, even on just like a handful of rushes. But the guy can do it all.
I'm only seeing that interception now on the all 22. Is that a coverage bust from Diggs on the guy running the jet motion? Like, is that coverage free and he's just not?
It could be.
Because if it is, that's incredible. I mean, it's one thing to be beaten by the out route and get the ball thrown right to you. It's another thing to be beaten on the out route, which is the thing you went to, ignoring the route going over your coverage.
I'm assuming somebody else is carrying that. The jet motion throws something off in the coverage. Dallas never adjusts.
They don't have enough guys in coverage. I mean, they have 3 deep, 3 shallow, and then like everyone else is rushing the passer.
It's Chauncey Golston getting the pressure up front for the Cowboys, so you credit him. It's one of those. It is one of those plays where I think the pass rush helps the coverage unit, but it also shows just how dependent defenses are on big plays sometimes. I mean, this is the difference between a 60-yard touchdown and in an interception is largely just on Matt Ryan in his accuracy, in his ability to handle that pressure that's getting into his face. It's not like he's getting hit or anything like that. Anyway,
by the way, the one thing. I mean, that's been a lot of like, hey, Trayvon Diggs is quite lucky. The one thing that is consistent with him is like that dude can catch.
He's got great balls.
Because that ball's actually it's so off that it's actually going not just behind Kyle Pitts, but it's going behind Diggs.
Yeah.
Like he has to catch it back here and ends up snagging it out of the air, catching it clean. He catches like the back half of the ball.
I don't know if he has any dropped interceptions or anything like that, but it does feel like when he has opportunities, he takes advantage. Again, whether it's popped up, whether it's, what was it, the pick 6 that he had against Philadelphia, just being able to stick it in his hands. I mean, he looks like a legitimate receiver out there defensively.
And this is why, like, as much as it's, hey, his luck will come back down to earth at some point, like, at some stage, you're not going to get a sequence of Matt Ryan throwing him the ball. On the other hand, I think it is a very real thing that if the ball is catchable in his coverage, he's got a pretty good chance of making a play on it.
Yes, and look, it's kind of an age-old question, right? Would you rather have a defensive back who's not perfect in coverage, is going to give it up, or a guy, but he's also going to turn it over?
Right. It is a big difference. You can't say that about every corner, right? There are a lot of corners where you're like, you know what? Even if the ball is very catchable in this guy's area, I mean, there's a pretty good chance he's not catching it.
Yeah.
Whereas Diggs, if the ball is catchable anywhere near him, there's a reasonable risk that he will pick it off. I mean, that is whatever about how much he's giving up and the bad plays offsetting some of the good. Like that is a very real plus in his advantages column, the pros column of his play.
All right, so Dallas 43, Atlanta 3. Dallas back on top after a rough week. Really good bounce back. Dallas has averaged 31.6 points per game now. That's highest in the NFL. Dangerous offense, as we expected, and a good bounce back game for the Cowboys.
We did none of our housekeeping up front. Your intro was butchered so badly. We glossed right over all the.
We don't do housekeeping on review.
We don't do housekeeping.
Not a ton.
We gotta first start. We have to push people to email us, right? Because that doesn't happen by itself. You have to remind people.
True.
So email us ideas, stories, questions for our Wednesday show in particular. Also, new charity ideas, because we're finally getting around to actually doing this one. So we're going to need the next one.
Trying to knock it out this week.
Yeah. In theory, we'll be doing the baseball thing later this week. So email us, NFLpodcast, singular, @pff.com. That's the email address. Send us all of your ideas, all those kinds of things. In theory, we shall be doing the baseball thing later this week. So this is our display bat. This is not the real one because it's wood and fancy, and we don't want to wreck it.
We will not wreck that now.
But this was sent to us by the good people at Stinger, which has the PFF logo there and the Best Friends Animal Society logo over here, and the Best Friends Animal Society colors. So I don't know what we're going to do with this, but this is a cool little display thing that we have. In theory, later this week, we will be using the metal Stinger bat.
Yeah.
And
that won't break, probably.
I wouldn't have thought so. You will be pitching at me. I will be
at the catcher, at the target.
Sure.
Yeah.
I will be hitting one of these balls. And that will be our charity thing. You're apparently sourcing some sort of catching person who will bring a bunch of padding so that I can also take a pass or take a ball as a catcher.
Working to confirm that.
Still working on that?
Yeah.
Okay. That's quite an important part of this.
No, I know.
You
We
actually
definitely
need to do something there.
need a catcher.
But in theory, we're just going to find some kind of diamond, go there, rock up, do it, record it so that we can prove to people that we did it and haven't scammed you out of money for charity.
It's going to be great.
And then that'll be all done. Having done a couple of sessions at the batting cage, which must bring my all-time lifetime tally of swings up to like 50 at this point, I'm reasonably confident that I can connect on a ball. I don't think I'm going to swing 10 times and hit nothing.
Okay.
I don't think it's going to happen. Look, what I lose in, the speed, I'm assuming will be faster than the machine, because otherwise you need to take a good hard look at yourself. So the speed, I would assume, will be quicker. The movement, I would anticipate also being more, whether or not that's by design or just, rust. But what I lose in those things, I think I gain back in seeing it coming. Like, the machine is tricky because it just disappears and you have no idea when the hell the ball's coming out.
You have no idea how tough it is to see the ball out of my hand.
But I at least get to see the giant 6'10" wind-up coming. Like, I got a rough idea when it's coming.
Wait till I start varying the speed of my motion, and you don't want to see my sidearm fastball. If I break out the sidearm fastball, you might be in trouble.
Why? What happens with that one?
So my arm is like way over here, which is like where you're standing. So it looks like the ball is going to be, my hand is coming right at you, but the ball is going to be coming out this way, and then it's going to move back to you. So it's like a whole
the movement thing mess. I don't like the idea of. That feels like
the ball moves a lot. My ball moves a lot.
I don't like that. If you could find your way clear to just putting it somewhere where it goes in a straight line, that'd be great.
Yeah, it's I don't throw straight balls all that well.
Great.
Not a very good BP
Outstanding.
pitcher.
People were sort of, people in the office were concerned about, they were like, oh no, once there's some movement there, you'll be like spooked off the plate. It's like, no, like I have this, until I get hit with one, I have this like childlike naivete about, there's no fear, right? Because I've yet to be hit by a baseball. So like my daughter got stung by a wasp for the first time in her life the other day. She's 8. And at no point in her life has ever been even remotely concerned by wasps. Got stung, and now like as soon as she sees one, freaks, right? That's where I am with baseball. I have yet to be hit by a ball. Therefore, there's nothing you can throw in my direction that will concern me until it beans me in the head.
I really hope that's still the case after this week. I really do.
Well, the good thing is, even if it isn't, how many times am I going to go baseballing again?
I don't know, maybe next time.
I would assume not many.
This could be an annual event.
No, I'm just saying that until...
Like Rich Eisen running 40.
Until I catch a ball in the ribs, I'm unlikely to be concerned by whatever you throw in my direction.
Yeah, if I was going to hit you, it would probably be in the ribs, actually. So,
yeah.
Are you ready to move on? The one other housekeeping item is 25% off with NFL Pod.
Yes.
There it is. Promo code NFL Pod. The games will be coming in as we speak throughout this podcast.
But also, by the way, since this is still live, go and donate. My pinned tweet goes to stop pets being destroyed. We will be doing it this week. I would say the video probably goes up sometime on next week's show, maybe. Depends how good Tyler is.
See if we get some
like
social media footage or something.
Yeah. I don't know what we're doing with it all. But anyway, there will be proof somewhere. And then there will be still more opportunities to donate money and reward me for catching a wayward pitch in the ribs.
Let me double check on the catcher.
Oh, God.
I was going to go Jags Colts next. Jags Colts?
Yeah. So
Colts jumped out to 17-0 in like 2 minutes.
Yes. And when you watch the start of this game, it's like, oh, look, that Colts offensive line is still rolling. They were absolutely demolishing the Jags defensive front. Jonathan Taylor continues having a big game. You're like, oh, wow, this game is going to be an absolute walkover. This is going to be another one of those Denver-Dallas games. It's just going to be domination start to finish. And then you look up, and it's like, hang on, the Colts have stopped scoring, and the game isn't getting any further away. And actually, there's a Jamal Agnew run past the entire defense, and all of a sudden the Jags have like pegged this close again. Like, what is happening in this game?
Jamal Agnew is one of the more fascinating players in the NFL this year. He went to San Diego. He's 5'10", 190. He's kind of he's like a running back, wide receiver hybrid. This is maybe what the Jags wanted to do with Travis Etienne, but he's running, so he's got a 66-yard touchdown run, but he's also been like one of the top targets for Trevor Lawrence. He gets open. He's got speed. He's been a very good returner through the years. He's hardly done anything offensively until this year, really. But, he'll get open. His ball skills are just horrible as far as actually catching the ball. But he gets open and, does all these other, he creates these big play opportunities. He's got 4 drops on 27 catchable targets this year. Just a fascinating player because he feels like a guy that would be a really nice weapon when you have 2 or 3 weapons above him, when you have 2 or 3 actual legitimate receivers above him, because he's just got big playability every single week. But man, the 4 drops over the last 2 weeks really hurt. And then other times he just loses at the catch point. So just an interesting player. But I think when you're trying to evaluate Trevor Lawrence, I mean, this is who he's throwing to, right? He's throwing to a running back wide receiver hybrid in Agnew. He's got Marvin Jones, who's been always a little streaky, hit or miss. There are some games where Jones is fantastic. Laquan Treadwell, Laviska Shenault. This group of pass catchers just has not been good, has been banged up and by injuries and everything. And then, Trevor Lawrence also continues to just not take care of the ball. The Jags offense, just not good, man. Just not good overall. If you take away the 66-yard touchdown from Agnew, they're not doing much against this Colts defense. Yeah. And Lawrence had 2 turnover-worthy plays. One tries to throw it away along the sideline, pretty much was almost intercepted just by trying to throw it away, ends up keeping it in the field. And then he fumbles in a comeback attempt while they're down 6. So Lawrence he's had these opportunities to kind of like have his big moment, make his big comeback in this game, and just wasn't having it.
I still don't quite understand why the Colts weren't able to just control this game, running the ball and never risk the pass. When you look at what happened, they had 4 out of their 5 offensive linemen graded well in the run game. Quentin Nelson was the only guy that didn't. And Quentin Nelson, as much as he didn't grade particularly well, was responsible for a touchdown where Jonathan Taylor ran into a brick wall, was stalled at like the 2-yard line. Quentin Nelson just grabs hold of him like a latch, like rugby, and drives him over the line from like 2 yards away. And you're like, okay, great, touchdown. Which, by the way, remember a couple of weeks ago, somebody got pinged for hitting a guy when the officials claimed that his forward progress has been stopped.
Yeah.
If you're allowed to do this, i.e. Taylor's been stalled for a clear second or so, and then Quentin Nelson just grabs hold of him and creates a rolling maul and drives him over the goal line for a touchdown. You cannot ever penalize a defender for hitting like a stalled running back or a stalled pile. You can't, because they don't know when you're going to determine that's enough, or when you're going to let it play out and they score a touchdown because you didn't make that hit. You have to let them play. So anyway, the offensive line is dominating. Taylor's got these giant run lanes to go through. But in pass protection, it's the opposite story. Quentin Nelson had a pass blocking grade of 14. Ryan Kelly had one of 34. Carson Wentz has this perpetual inability to understand when a play is dead, and is a constant threat to throw the ball right to a defender in the grasp of a tackler. Why are you passing it ever?
Yeah, I mean the Jags pass rush was pretty legit. I mean, so to your point, I mean that is like the one thing the Jaguars have done well in recent weeks is actually they got after Josh Allen pretty well, whether it was unblocked pressure or just winning up front. It did seem like the Colts did have the run game advantage and got away with it a little bit. Carson Wentz continues to, in the grasp, put the ball from his right hand to his left hand and throw it up. Why? It almost worked yesterday for a first down. It was 3rd and 3, and he picked up 2 on his left-handed pass.
And then he had another one that was like a right-handed weird shovel thing.
Which he missed.
Yeah. I mean, I said this. I don't know if I've ever seen a player with a less firm understanding of when a play is over. Just eat it. It's done.
Most players, when there's a trend here, you would think if Carson Wentz, after being in the end zone and throwing a pick 6, but because he shoveled it lefty, you'd think he'd be like, all right, that's never happened to me. I will never make that mistake again. He doubled down. He's like, no, we're gonna do it. We're gonna do it multiple times. We're gonna do it multiple times this week. But
this is it's like the Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen stuff, except with not anything like the same amount of upside. It's like, this is who they are. This is the kind of player he is, and when it goes well, this is the stuff where you're like, yeah, you see, most quarterbacks can't do that, You're not going to find You're not going to find Teddy Bridgewater fighting his way out of contact and shoveling a pass and keeping the play alive. And Roethlisberger, same thing.
You're not going to see Teddy Bridgewater anywhere near contact, to be honest.
God, no. Teddy's not going anywhere near that. Wants no part of that smoke. But like Roethlisberger early in his career, right? Like that was his defining characteristic. Bodies hanging off him and him still fighting through and getting rid of the ball somehow. And it's not a sack. And that's Wentz now. But it's like, yeah, but where's our net here, right? Let's say you have 50 of these plays. What is our net EPA here? Like, are you actually providing value with this fighting through contact service that you're providing to the offense? Because I would suggest you're not right now. And if you're not, you should probably never do that again. Like, just eat the play, take the sack, get rid of it, whatever you need to do. Just stop getting yourself hurt.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the bigger thing. Like, forget throwing it lefty to a linebacker for a pick six, right? Forget that that's even a factor. The fact that, like, 5 times a game you are fighting through having a defensive end, like, hog tie you from behind is probably not a good thing for your long-term survivability at this position. You have
no protection when you're going to the ground.
Right, and you have quite an extensive history at this point of breaking, right? If anybody needs to adjust the way they're playing to stop taking unnecessary hits, it's you.
So Carson Wentz, start protecting yourself. Colts come away with the win. They're 5-5. The one thing I'll say for future Jags opponents, yeah, they beat the Bills last week, won 9-6. The pass rush is getting better. Pass rush to get Taven Bryan's playing well, creating pressure finally. I mean, if
Josh Allen, the first of his name.
Yeah, the real Josh Allen. The Jaguars' Josh Allen. Notice the Bills' Josh Allen when he's in a different place.
Well, he doesn't have to face Josh Allen.
Yeah, as the Jags' Josh Allen. You know, the QB Josh Allen just balls out.
Yeah.
Anyway, if Trevor Lawrence can start taking care of the ball a little bit better.
At what point do you get worried about Trevor Lawrence?
I'm already a little worried.
Oh,
I'm a little worried. Not that like he won't be good ever. I mean, again, we've seen quarterbacks have okay rookie seasons, below average rookie seasons, and then be okay and be good. But the point with Trevor Lawrence is he's supposed to have this ceiling, and so he's below my current expectations because my current expectations were the Andrew Luck comparison I kept making, which was not perfection, but was a lot of highs and a lot of lows. And to me, the lows have just really outweighed the highs so far for Trevor Lawrence.
And how much of that do you think is on him versus the situation?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think this entire offseason is going to be, what Dallas did with Dak, what the Bills did with Josh Allen. It is get as many.
I mean, it needs to be.
As many good pass catchers around there. So Jamal Agnew can be the really cool number 4 option, not the guy that you're going to, Agnew had 5 targets yesterday, didn't catch 1. I mean, you want him as a complementary piece. Laviska Shenault hasn't really developed like we were hoping. And Marvin Jones
he's being asked to be like something higher than he should be, right? It's like all of a sudden, Laviska needs to be the number 1 receiver in this offense because there's nobody else doing it. So in an ideal world, Laviska is like the number 2 who has run after the catch skills, who has like dynamic trick play ability, all those kinds of things. But he's being asked to be, go out there and be Randy Moss. Like that's just not who he is.
And the same thing with Dan Arnold, like a high target tight end when he should be your 3rd or 4th option, much like Jamal Agnew should be. So they have a lot of work to do there. But Lawrence has to do a better job taking care of the ball. It was it seemed like he was doing that a few weeks ago, and he's reverted back to a lot of the early season stuff.
It feels like Jags games now have become like sad Urban Meyer porn. Like, you get the game, it's going away, it's going south, and the camera just lingers on Urban on the sideline at all times. It's just like, it's like they know we got some gold coming here. And like, just give it a second, we'll get a sad face.
Don't ask for anything this week.
That's the shot we want.
You want new pens or
no? You had your chance. It was done.
Computer paper. It's not happening.
Nope.
At the Jaguars office this week. All right, we'll move on.
In fact, you better hide the crap that he bought you last week in case he sends it back.
Yeah, seriously. A lot of returns happening this week. We got to introduce a new NFL podcast sponsor. It is X-Chair. Loving the X-Chair. Working from home is more important now than ever. Optimize your home office with X-Chair and our many accessories, Sam, to enhance your focus, productivity, energy, and comfort. I got mine set up at the house. Got the massage feature, a little hot. Like I need the heating feature right now.
You need it?
Yeah. Well, my office gets a little cold sometimes.
Oh.
So I use the heating feature. I use the massage feature. It's all part of their dynamic variable lumbar, or DVL, which just takes care of you, man. It adds energy and the whole thing, like my old fighting necklaces.
Don't compare them to your fighting necklaces.
Those work. They both work.
No, look, stop it. Stop comparing the X chair to your snake oil crap. Like, the X chair is actually legit. It's an awesome chair. It has, like, the massage thing is really useful when you're sitting your ass in the chair for like 8 hours in a day,
yes.
which PFF people tend
us.
to do. And, we're not alone. Thankfully, in this world, there are other people that have to suffer through 8 hours in a chair as well. And if you're one of those people, the massage thing and the heat and cold stuff is actually really, really useful. It is not the same as your snake oil necklaces that you thought were going to add like 4 miles an hour to your pitch.
If I bust one of those out this week, you're in trouble.
Don't put that evil on the X-Chair people.
It's all in the LMX massage and temperature regulation, exclusively designed and made for X-Chair with versatile comfort and extraordinary design. X-Chair fits any space. High performance, quality engineering, extreme comfort. Those are all the reasons I love my X-Chair. So as Sam was saying, we work all day, every day at home other than when we're in here. So the X-Chair is taking care of us. Take our advice. Take X-Chair for yourself, risk-free for 30 days. So go to xchairnflpod.com now. That's the letter X, chair, NFLPOD.com, or call 1-844-4XChair for $100 off your order. It's X-Chair. They have a 30-day guarantee of complete comfort, and you can finance your purchase for as little as $30 a month. It's xchairnflpod.com. If you're watching on YouTube, check out the link in the description.
30-day free trial?
Yeah, it's well worth it.
Now you're cooking.
And again, the biggest selling point that we had the other day is I put it together all by myself.
It really is. Like, it cannot be overstated.
It's like 4 steps. Tools are right there. You twist some stuff, and it's great.
Like, you get,
mine hasn't fallen apart.
You get some things that roll up, and it's like some assembly required, right? And you're like, look, this is beyond normal people. And by normal people, I mean people that can actually do these things. You are not normal people. You cannot do these things at all. Some assembly required. You're going to need the assistance of your kids or your wife, somebody that isn't you. The fact that you were able to put this thing together is a massive selling point for how easy it is.
You just spend half the pod making fun of me.
Yeah.
At some point.
Yeah.
I'm going to pitch baseballs at you.
I know.
And you're going to be sorry.
No. Sorry will only happen once I catch one, remember? Like, the idea you be sitting there and threatening to fire a baseball at me means nothing to me right now.
Ask my buddy Mike, 12-year-old Little League All-Stars, what happens when I pitch to my friends. I hit him. It was my sidearm fastball, actually, in the back twice in the same practice.
It's just, it literally has no effect on me yet.
He still has a bruise.
I mean, it will later.
Yeah.
But now, nothing.
He was bailing from pitches for the next 7 years of his life. Couldn't hit a curveball.
Yeah.
Because of our 12-year-old year when I hit him in the back.
There's literally nothing you can say to me that will concern me until I catch one of those in the ribs.
Patriots 45, Browns 7.
Yeah.
Talked about the Patriots and what to expect from them going forward on the PFF NFL Daily today. Patriots are hot right now. They've won 4 straight. They went from 2-4 to now 6-4. And as the entire AFC has their question marks and, the Chiefs are back. But, every team's up and down, and teams we thought were good are starting to lose, and the whole thing. Patriots are lurking back in the playoff picture up to 6-4. And Mac Jones, as we're talking about Trevor Lawrence's rookie struggles, with Mac Jones not missing throws and making big-time throws and just looking really, really good in this game.
Yeah, and this was the game we covered on the NFL Daily, so go listen to the 10-minute version of that. But this was, so remember the Dallas game, you're like, what could have been, but for a couple of plays earlier in that game, right? If Dak Prescott had thrown the pick 6, that game could have been completely different if a couple of those plays had gone the other way early. This game, the Browns actually started well.
Yeah.
They scored a touchdown on the first drive. It was a weird sequence, actually, because Baker basically throws a touchdown to Njoku, who allows it to be knocked from his hands and then in the end zone, and then had the temerity to turn around and be like, touchdown. And I'm sure the official looked at that and was like, Oh, it's definitely not complete
There's
now.
no way.
Like, whatever about where it should have been in all things being equal, if you have the balls to turn around and, like, look for the touchdown just because you couldn't hold on to it, no way we're giving that. So, doesn't give the touchdown. Baker then almost throws an interception in the end zone. They then go for it on the 4th down.
4th and 2.
Right.
Yeah.
Get the touchdown. And you're like, oh, this is more evidence of the Browns, doing smart things, going for those 4th down decisions, making it count. They get the touchdown. And then from that point on, it was just a train wreck. Like, Dearness Johnson was rolling in that first drive. They were dominating on the ground. And then almost from that point onwards, everything went wrong for the Browns. Conversely, the Patriots were doing fantastically. They were able to neutralize the Browns' defensive line. Mac Jones, I think, took a real step in terms of proving where his upside lands. I'm not just an Alex Smith game-managing style of quarterback. I can bring big plays to the table as well. And he threw some absolute dimes. And even, it wasn't like a high-volume game, but it was a really high-leverage game for him. Like, all of his best, like, they kept putting him in situations where it's like 3rd and 6, 3rd and 8, whatever. And every time it happened, Mac Jones delivered a strike exactly where it needed to be, kept the chains moving, or threw a touchdown. Really impressive game from him.
Yeah, after that opening drive, again, where the feeling, I think we mentioned it on the preview show too, it's like, all right, you've got Kevin Stefanski and, going to go for it on 4th down. He's going to be aggressive. Belichick's been on the conservative side of that. Is that going to be a factor in this game? Well, it was a factor on the first drive, but the Patriots bounced back with a 15-play, 83-yard drive where Mac Jones hits Hunter Henry for a 3-yard touchdown. Browns start turning the ball over. Patriots get the 1-play, 5-yard drive.
I mean,
of course,
the Browns scored a touchdown. They scored first, right? So
yes, Browns are up 7-0.
45 unanswered points from that point on. 7-0, and then 7:45 at the end of the game.
It was those long drives that you said. There was the 15-play one and then 11-play, 99-yard drive where Mac Jones has 2 big-time throws, including a seam route for Kendrick Bourne for a 23-yard touchdown. This Patriots offense, again, when you guys get when premium stats, when the games get loaded up, you're going to see a ridiculous overall offense grade for the Patriots. Not just Mac Jones throwing the ball, even Brian Hoyer throwing the ball because he had 80-something yards on 3 passes in relief. But the run blocking grade, the rushing, like across the board, the Patriots just dominated offensively in this game.
Yeah, I think right now Mac Jones is going to have the best PFF grade of any quarterback of the week.
I don't think probably not over Josh Allen, I don't think.
Isn't it? I mean, it was the last time I did. I just not refresh.
It's close. It's going to be close with him and Josh Allen, I believe.
It's not that close. Right now, it's a fairly significant. Oh, I've got no place turned off.
Yeah.
What is that doing to me? Whatever.
Anyway.
He is either the best graded or second best graded quarterback in the NFL this week, even though it wasn't a high volume game for him. But the other thing is, once this game kind of got out of control and was just Patriots' route, it was like they started checking off all the things, What in a dream blowout kind of game, what would we like to see on the stat sheet? It's like, well, we need 1 catch for N'Keal Harry. So Brian Hoyer comes out here, delivers a dime to N'Keal Harry, who makes a catch. This would be the game to finally get that monkey off Jacoby Myers back and get him a receiving touchdown. So we get that. Like, it's amazing how badly this game went for the Browns. And
Jacoby Myers finally gets into the end zone.
Yeah. Like, first time since like 2018 or something ridiculous.
Yeah.
And then this game, so as much as the Patriots looked fantastic, Mac Jones was great.
Ramondre Stevenson comes in. With all the injuries, concussion protocol and everything that the Patriots had, he goes 20 for 100 yards and 2 scores.
This was as bad as Baker Mayfield has ever looked.
Yeah. That's what I did as we were getting into the preview show.
Fresh off like one of his best games.
Yeah.
Liberated from OBJ.
So now I did say maybe we shouldn't have overreacted to the OBJ stuff. I did mention that on Thursday going up against this Patriots defense. I didn't love that matchup for the Browns. And now, knowing what we've seen from the Jets and the Browns against the Bengals, so the Jets torched the Bengals, as did the Browns over these last 2 weeks. Perhaps it was more the Bengals defense, because both Mike White and the Jets, Baker Mayfield and the Browns, very much back down to earth now against the AFC East powerhouses of the Buffalo Bills and the New England Patriots.
Yeah. But the thing I think that was really This was one of those games that Baker Mayfield shouldn't be having at this point in his career. Like, he was not great anyway from a sort of standard baseline, just throw-to-throw basis, but the turnover-worthy plays, the turnovers that he had, were terrible. They weren't just like, they were throws that you just shouldn't be making at this point in your career. It's like, what are you attempting to do here? These are terrible. You're throwing into the leverage of defensive backs. They're bad decisions. They're bad accuracy. The one he tried to throw in the end zone, he has to know there's a guy there. Now, there's enough bodies between him and the dude that you give him the benefit of the doubt that he just never saw him. But at some point, you have to know that when everybody's flowing in one direction, you stop. You try and hit a guy that's coming, with you. You're
talking, so he's late in the end zone, essentially throws it. I mean, you just don't throw it at that
everybody's
time.
Flowing left. He pulls up and then tries to hit a guy that's also flowing left. But you know that the second you stop, there's a defender that stomps as well. Like, they're reading you. And he basically throws it right to him, doesn't make the play. Then he throws it directly to Kyle Duggar on a play that was bad, even if it was accurate. The
Duggar play, you've got Kyle Duggar's in man coverage against David Njoku. They also have trap coverage on the outside from Jalen Mills. That pass would have been intercepted by either Duggar or Mills. Duggar takes it back to the 5. That leads to the 5-yard
Again, you can kind of give him credit for the idea of, like, he never sees the trap, right? And sometimes that happens. That's why it's called trap coverage, right? So essentially, when he looks at this play, he thinks that the cornerback is going to turn outside towards the receiver, outside release, and play man coverage and track him all the way down the sideline, and is therefore effectively not in the play from his point of view, right? He's throwing to the inside slot receiver who's breaking out into that space that receiver is clearing out. That's not what that corner does. He turns to the inside, sinks, and essentially keeps his eyes on Baker Mayfield the whole way. So if you want to give Baker credit, you are like, okay, it happens. Quarterbacks get trapped by trap coverage, and you didn't see that guy. Even if you remove that corner from the equation and you say it went exactly the way Baker Mayfield read it, it would have been a pick. Like, he threw it inside to the dude who was covering the guy he was going for. So it was bad again. And then the next one, like, you're throwing to Anthony Schwartz one-on-one against J.C. Jackson, who, one, is just significantly better than Anthony Schwartz, and two, you're throwing into Jackson's leverage. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, some bad decisions in there by Baker Mayfield, who comes out of the game. He said he's all banged up beyond just the shoulder. Everything's banged up. He's hurt.
Then he hurt his leg or whatever.
Yeah. Case Keenum came in at the end. But yeah, it is inconsistent, to say the least, for Baker Mayfield week to week here. And I don't know, if last week the shoulder injury wasn't a concern, we can't necessarily blame that this week. But it's his. He had a 49 grade back in week 4. We're looking at a grade in the 30s here in this game, where they just didn't have a shot. I tell you what, they could use a nice receiver that can separate against man coverage. I'll tell you that.
And this must be maddening if you're the Browns front office.
Yeah,
because you're like, this year was supposed to be the year that gave you clarity on Baker Mayfield. It was supposed to be a career year for him, and you could come out of that and you could kind of talk yourself into giving him the big contract, and at least the decision's made, right? Even if it's the wrong decision and you end up handing him a Josh Allen, kind of deal, and then 12 months' time you regret it. At least, the decision was made for you. You didn't have to think about it too hard. Now you've had 10 weeks of chaos where he's injured. You don't know what's going on. The OBJ thing hasn't worked out. You get rid of him. Last week, the first week without OBJ, Baker looks great. And you're like, oh, maybe this is it. Maybe we get 9 more weeks of Baker playing at a pretty high level through a banged-up shoulder, and you're like, great, we can convince ourselves he's worth a contract and we're good. No, the next week you get like the worst game of his career, and you're back to what the hell is Baker Mayfield? Because he isn't as bad as this game, right? This was literally like the worst game you're ever going to see from him. But neither is he as good as last week, where he's basically flawless in a good situation within this offense. So they are back to basically having no earthly idea what they have at quarterback and running out of games to make the decision.
The people are saying that Schwartz ran the wrong route.
Yeah? What route was he supposed to run against?
Presumably an out. I mean, it's tight man coverage. Either way, he wasn't separating, and also
either way, Baker's
if he didn't run the right route, it wasn't a miscommunication though. It was, if you didn't run the right route, you shouldn't have thrown. He also threw it under pressure, was about to get hit. Baker took that chance.
Yeah, like
J.C. Jackson should have picked it off.
Anthony Schwartz got bodied.
If we're talking about the same play. If we're talking about another one where Schwartz ran the wrong route, we're not blaming Baker for that.
It's a corner route where Baker, like, it's entirely possible that Anthony Schwartz wasn't where he was supposed to be on the play.
Presumably the YouTubers are talking about a different play.
Possibly. If it is this play, though, like it is a corner route where he gets bodied because the corner has outside leverage on him, right? So he tries to cut back into the leverage of the cornerback and gets completely physically dominated at the catch point.
That was Schwartz's only target.
So, like, yes, it's entirely possible he's not where he's supposed to be on that play, but the reason that's the case is because he gets dominated by a dude who has position on him all the way along. It's like a a poorly positioned pass in basketball where the dude's just getting boxed out. It's like, okay, there's a degree to which that dude should be somewhere else. On the other hand, you can see that he's physically outmatched by the guy beating him in the post, and putting the ball over here he's never going to get to it.
Yeah, so that was a rough one for Baker Mayfield. It's his worst grade since week 6 of last year. That was the Steelers game where we came out of it with the same...
Right. The sky is falling.
The same level of disappointment. I mean, this is like... Look, when I'm disappointed in my kids, I use a similar tone with Baker. I expected more from you, son.
I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed.
I'm just disappointed.
I'm just saying, if you're the Browns, like, this is worst case scenario. The waters are only getting muddier in terms of what you do at Baker Mayfield.
Yeah. So Browns fall to 5-5. They continue to be a bit of a roller coaster ride as their quarterback is. Patriots up to 6-4, very much in the thick of this playoff picture, and still just a half game behind the Buffalo Bills in the AFC East. Before we get to the next game, gotta tell you, this is very important here. Breaking news. Manscaped has just launched new products, including their all-new Ultra Premium Body Wash and a 2-in-1 shampoo and conditioner. Pretty big-time news here. It's time to give yourself or someone who needs it the gift of beautiful skin, hair, and balls. This holiday season, go to manscaped.com and use code PFF for 20% off plus free shipping. This week, here's what's happening. We're going to give away multiple Performance Package 4.0s. That's right. We're going to give them away. All you have to do is rate and review the podcast, leave your email, and or a social media handle if you don't want to give your email on the reviews. So leave some sort of contact information when you rate and review the podcast, and we'll choose winners at the end of the week. Inside the Performance Package 4.0, you'll find the signature Lawnmower 4.0, the electric trimmer that has proprietary advanced skin-safe technology to reduce cuts on your nuts. It's also waterproof, so you can use it in the shower. There are no talking points about the snow or sleet, despite, the snow in Green Bay and everything yesterday. They've cut out those talking points for some reason, but don't forget the snow's coming around and this thing's waterproof. They've also launched their new, as we mentioned, the 2-in-1 shampoo and conditioner, which has key ingredients with benefits that include hydrating, nourishing, and conditioning the scalp and strengthening your hair at the same time. 'Tis the season to load up on Manscaped products, so get yourself, your dad, your brother, and friends the best gift of all time. It's the Manscaped Performance Package 4.0. So get 20% off and free shipping with the code PFF over at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com. Use the code PFF. Clean up your nuts and make Santa proud this year. We're getting there.
Proud.
We're getting there. You didn't know that was coming.
I didn't. No.
It's not even highlighted in yellow. It's not even a must read.
Is that like a the way Santa knows if you're naughty or nice? You don't need to.
They know.
Is this
He
just
knows.
once you shave the nuts, Santa? You don't have to show him, on Christmas night.
No, Santa knows.
Okay. Santa
knows. And leave those reviews.
You probably don't want to set a whole sequence of flashing Santa going. I mean, I'm not sure that's the campaign you want to set up.
I mean, maybe
but if
just
he knows
confirm
once you've
so you
done
get what you want. Oh gosh, we've exhausted it. Leave those reviews. You get a free Performance Package 4.0 potentially over at wherever you review our podcast.
Which, I mean, legitimately, the package that Manscaped provides,
the Performance Package 4.0
for your package, is an awesome thing to get.
It's a good package.
It's like a legitimately great Christmas gift. So, leave reviews, rate the podcast, get yourself something free.
Buffalo Bills 45, New York Jets 17.
Make Santa proud.
Make Santa proud. No cuts on your nuts. Bills 45-17 over the Jets. The Bills are back, baby.
Yeah. Yeah, all it took was Mike White trying to throw the ball to them 58 times.
Yeah, Mike White.
I mean, look, I don't want to
hard.
We've got ourselves into trouble overreacting a lot this season. I don't want to overreact, but it's possible that Mike White was never that good.
He was saying he thought he should have been the number 1 overall pick a couple of years ago.
Yeah,
that's just him saying I'm confident in my abilities, which is cool.
I mean,
like, I think I should have been drafted in one of the 50 rounds that I got passed over, and I was right. I was confident. Like, I should have at least been a 35th rounder.
Yeah,
I proved it.
How?
I mean, it's AAA. Above all the guys who got drafted above me. Like, Michael Vick got drafted above me. What did he do in baseball?
I mean, about as much as you did.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
Well,
how many AAA hits did Michael Vick have?
How many major league plays did either of you have?
It's a long road, Sam, all right? It's a long road. And I gave moral support in the Major League bullpen.
It feels like this is an all or nothing proposition, right? Like, you're not drafting people to stock up the minors, are you?
Well, actually, you are. I mean, you are.
You're drafting people because you think this guy...
We're called roster fillers, Sam. You need somebody to fill out the roster.
You're packing peanuts? Is that what
provides value. Look, when the 2007 Instruction League Giants are going out there going undefeated, and I'm a part of that team, and that lays the groundwork for the 2010 San Francisco Giants championships, I'm a part of that.
You're packing peanuts. You are the worthless pieces of polystyrene that protect the valuable thing in the box.
I mean, somebody's got to take care of Buster Posey, you know? Somebody's got to groom him along the way.
Oh, God.
Anyway, Mike White should not have been the number 1 overall pick. No. I have been impressed with Mike White over these last couple weeks.
Yeah.
This was not a great game for him. Buffalo defense continues to be very, very good. Josh Allen back on track after scoring 6 points last week. The Bills, again, they score 45 with Josh Allen peppering the field with 8 big-time throws.
8?
I mean, he averaged 13 yards per attempt. So I think one of them was incomplete as well. So he was just dropping dimes down the field. Allen was awesome in this one. No checkdowns in this thing.
No.
Just downfield stuff. Stephon Diggs, uncoverable. Yes. 8 for 162. Gabriel Davis went over 100 yards.
Josh Allen had 8 big-time throws in that game. Zach Wilson has 8 big-time throws on the season. And Zach Wilson is a guy that's supposed to bring big-time throws to the table. It's not like we're,
just a rookie.
I know, but all right. Pick another. Jacoby Brissett has 8 big-time throws. Taylor Heineke has 8 big-time throws in the season. Daniel Jones has 7 big-time throws in the season. Jared Goff has 7 before yesterday. I don't think he had another one, did he?
Goff?
Based off memory of yesterday's game.
I don't think so.
So my point is, 8 big-time throws in a single game is a crap ton.
Yeah. This game's live, too, over on Premium Stats. So if you guys have PFF Elite, you can go check out the grades. It is reviewed, and it's live. NFL Pod, you get that 25% off if you want to jump in right now. But Bills back to establishing dominance, man.
Over the Jets, yeah.
Yeah, over the Jets. Is there anything else to say about this particular football game?
I mean, other than, so this was a week where both the offenses that had started to struggle because teams were playing them in a certain way got out of it. Now, we'll get to the Raiders-Chiefs game in a bit, but the Chiefs' offense effectively got right last night. The Bills' offense absolutely got right against the Jets. They had started to see a lot of that coverage, the too high stuff, where it was frustrating Josh Allen, making him play the game in a more boring, conservative style, and kind of causing some issues. The Bills' offense just didn't care in this game, and were able to make all the big throws anyway. And maybe the Jets just don't have the horses to cause the same level of frustration, but you wouldn't have thought the Jags did either. So I mean, it's an important thing, I think, to just note that this was a hell of a get-right game for the Bills, even if it comes with the caveat of, hey, it was the Jets. And, Mike White kept throwing you the ball.
Only 8 of those too high looks from the Jets.
Right, and I think that is teams should probably look at that. The two teams that allowed those struggling offenses to get right this week both did not do the thing that everybody else has been doing to cause them problems. Maybe you should adopt that.
Yeah. Allen, like I said, Allen was awesome. Put the ball in harm's way a couple times. Couple poor plays in there, but overall, Josh Allen playing really, really well. And Bills are back. That all-around win, too, right? I mean, until Joe Flacco came in, the Jets couldn't do a whole lot. Until garbage time, really. Mike White a little bit in garbage time, and then Joe Flacco coming in relief. The Bills won this one pretty handily against the Jets. Where else do we want to go here? Let's go to the tie.
Ugh.
Ready for the tie?
This was the most disgusting, depressing game of football of the entire season.
Lions 16, Steelers 16.
Neither team deserved to win. Like, a tie was the right result.
Hence the tie.
Yes, the tie was absolutely the right result. The only tragedy is that meant we all had to sit through overtime as well.
That's my sometimes silence, right?
Yeah,
You can
on an audio medium, you think that's the winner?
Yeah.
Dead air.
You embrace it's uncomfortable, as the podcaster say, sometimes. But sometimes silence tells the story.
Uh-huh.
So I was going with that. Silence telling the story. I should also see the camera more instead of turning away from it.
You think?
5-3-1, the Steelers fall to. They fall to, or do they just take a lateral step to? And the Lions take a lateral step to 0-8-1. Dan Campbell gets his first non-loss.
So for the Steelers, I think you can say, yeah, the Lions, they step forward. It's a half step. It's a stumble.
So they step up to 0-8-1.
They stumble upwards to a no longer 0-for season. Now it's 0-for and a tie, so it's not like they got to win, but they are no longer capable of going 0-17.
0-16 still on the table.
It is 0-16-1. God, this was just depressing. Everything about this game was miserable.
There was a point where the Lions had more points than passing yards.
Yeah.
So they did pick up some big plays on the ground. They were trying to protect Jared Goff at all costs in this game. Once the weather got poor, there was just no way to protect him. Like, he just can't complete a pass.
It's like if you're the football gods watching this game, right? You're like, this is terrible. What could make it worse?
I'm going to rewatch it.
Let's throw some
tonight.
weather in it.
I'm going to rewatch it again tonight.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
This might be when my 5- and 6-year-old need a little bit of punishment.
Watch this.
We might fire up this game.
Yeah.
No, I'm just. Mason Rudolph got the start. Big Ben joined the COVID list late on Saturday night. So Mason Rudolph gets the emergency start. Presumably they didn't know until Saturday, right? So that thing showed up. He developed symptoms. So that's rough for Mason Rudolph to just have to start right away. But that's the nature of the backup QB.
Yeah.
Some untimely fumbles here, including, of course, Pat Freiermuth in overtime just to get into field goal range. The Lions missed a game-winning field goal. Both teams had some opportunities to win this game, but nobody wanted to take the opportunity to actually seal the deal and win it. So it ends in a tie, and I don't have much else to say about this football game.
Horrendous kick attempt to win it in overtime. I don't even know what okay, one glimmer of optimism. The Lions played Penei Sewell at right tackle for the first time, with Taylor Decker returning from injury, and given what we'd seen in preseason, that had the potential to be an absolute train wreck, particularly when you were going to be going one-on-one a lot with TJ Watt,
who's now hurt.
Yes, so obviously that helped, right? The fact that TJ Watt's knee buckled inwards at one point and he missed some time, but Penei Sewell graded well.
Yeah,
had an overall grade of like in the 70s, but was better as a pass blocker than run blocking. Like, that was encouraging. I mean, you wouldn't have liked to have seen Penei Sewell go to right tackle, get absolutely ripped to shreds by TJ Watt, and then you're coming out of that game and you're unsure about whether this is wise to sort of suffer through the growing pains at right tackle, knowing that in the future you'll therefore have two good tackles, right? Coming out of this, you can at least be like, all right, it looks like he can hang at right tackle as well as left tackle. It wasn't the train wreck that it was in preseason. We can go somewhere now.
So good for Penei. That was good.
Yeah, that's about all I got.
We've seen Goff in rain games. I mean, I'll never forget, as a true freshman at Cal, he played in a rain game at Oregon, and he could, I think he fumbled like 4 or 5 times. He could not even grip the football. And as much as I've expected Jared Goff to have a little bit better season, the point I just wanted to make, and last year, I think it was last year against Washington, he played an okay game in the rain where he had to do the pie throw play. Remember the pie throw? The ball was like resting on his little hand, and then he Phillip Rivers shot putted it up and actually got it onto to Robert Woods. But there's like a game or two per year where Jared Goff just can't do it, just can't play because the weather is so bad. So when we get to combine time and we talk about the 9-inch hand guys, these are the games we have in mind. There's like a game or two a year where it's like completing beyond a screen pass is a challenge.
But there must be like there's a missing element somewhere along the line, right? Because the difference in hand size between 9 and 9.25 can't be the difference between Jared Goff and Patrick Mahomes. There's something else at work where like as soon as there's moisture in the air, Jared Goff can't hold a football. But it's like Patrick Mahomes at no point ever seems like he's likely to lose grip on the ball no matter what he's doing. And he's often doing truly ridiculous things that Jared Goff can't even dream of in a fit of fever. Like, that can't be 0.25 inches.
That's it.
There's got to be like
9 inches is the cutoff.
There's got to be like a grip strength element that we're missing here. There's some missing factor that we're not including in this hand size equation.
Mason Rudolph played an okay game. Made some nice throws, some rough ones in there. But again, it was the inability. His best throws, a couple downfield ones. One did not show up on the stat sheet, but the other one was Deontay Johnson fumbling in overtime. Decent throw, gets them across the field to perhaps get into position for the game winner, but fumbled. So Rudolph made a few nice throws in there and a few, a little up and down for Rudolph. But 16-16, and kind of a missed opportunity for the Steelers in their playoff push here.
Well,
missed opportunity for the Lions to get Dan Campbell's first win, but he gets his first non-loss, which is a step. Non-loss.
I understand that your quarterback, Ben Roethlisberger, wasn't playing this game. On the other hand, the idea that you can be taken seriously as a playoff threat when you have this game on your resume, even knowing that every team tends to have a bad, like the Bills losing to the Jags is on their resume. But this was just miserable from the Steelers. Everybody looked terrible. Minkah Fitzpatrick, the Steelers fans think is the best safety in the NFL, was just like randomly spinning in a circle and falling on his ass rather than making a tackle. Like he had 2 or 3 plays where you're like, what are you doing?
Yeah, that's what Minkah's done this year.
Fumbles everywhere. Like this entire game was just depressing. Let's just get the hell out of here.
Tennessee 23, Saints 21.
Thank God.
Sean Payton was upset at the negated end zone interception on a roughing the passer call.
Rightly so.
To Ryan Tannehill. That was a game changer. Deontay Harris fumbling, leading to a Tennessee score. Couple huge plays really turned this game. The ironic thing, so Ryan Tannehill throws an end zone interception, negated by the roughing the passer call, which was actually near identical to the play a couple weeks ago against the Bucs, where Trevor Siemian throws a bad end zone interception, very bad roughing the passer call that negates it. It is, it's not that like, well, now it's even. It's that like football games.
People will argue that though. That's the dumb thing about this, right? There are people out there that are like, oh, the bad calls even out, and therefore who cares? Right?
No, I mean,
they don't even.
It had a massive effect on the Bucs game 2 weeks ago.
Right.
It has a massive effect on this Saints-Titans game right now. The refs, for like really light roughing calls and weird pass interference calls, they are having a massive effect on football games.
Number one, they don't even out, right? And a lot of the times you're going to get a team that gets hosed like over the course of a season versus ones that get all the breaks. Sometimes they even out, but a lot of the times they don't. So that is just simply not true. Secondly, even if they do, they are changing the outcomes of games in a way that is not useful. Like what? That was a 7-point swing in this game. It was an end zone interception, and they didn't get it. It was taken off the board, and instead the Titans score a couple of plays later. That is a 7-point swing that is attributed directly to officials. And by the way, the Titans win the game by 2. So that is literally the difference in this game between winning or losing for the New Orleans Saints.
Yeah.
That official, based off what is clearly a horseshit call, is the difference between winning or losing the game. The idea that that penalty is not reviewable if it is that powerful in terms of affecting the game is absurd. If you're going to make that have that kind of impact and you're going to empower an official to throw a flag based off a defensive end brushing against the quarterback at the end of the play and changing the outcome, you have to allow them to look at it again.
Can this just be, I don't want to get to reviewable though, because they tried this. They tried this with pass interference a couple years ago. It was a 2019. They did 1 year of let's review pass interference, and all of a sudden it turned into every every pig play.
Yeah. Every pig play. They look at it under the booth. You get ticky-tacky, judgment calls, and it's a problem. On the other hand, it's still better that they look at it again than they just let a guy brush into a quarterback and then take away an interception. You dead yet?
Where are those cough buttons?
Yeah,
I think I'm back.
I don't have a cough button.
Can we get a cough button? Get me off camera. This is terrible.
Why? Have you ever delved into the what's wrong with you? Why do you just randomly die during the course of podcasts every now and again?
I took a sip of coffee.
Yeah.
I felt like something was stuck in my throat. And it wasn't good.
No.
At least we're not live.
No, that would be a problem.
Just needed one good cough. Now we're good. Back on track. This is why we can't compete with Good Morning Football.
They would never do that.
You think Peter and Kay would be coughing on live TV like this?
God, no.
Burleson never would. That's why he's on CBS this morning, right? I mean, that would never happen.
You get one. It's like the Steelers game, right? You have one of those in your resume. You can't go to GMFB.
We're done.
You can't go to CBS in the morning.
I'm the tallest guest GMFB's ever had.
Wasn't there a dispute over that? Didn't they?
They thought Dan McGuire was the tall, but you go to Pro Football Reference and Pro Baseball Reference,
right?
Dan McGuire's listed at 6'8". I'm listed at 6'10".
Whoa. So the listed height is different, but I'm
6'10". But
you're
tallest Good Morning Football.
Your listed height might be.
Yes, I'm okay. The YouTube chat is very concerned. I'm okay. It was it felt like the coffee grinds. It just felt like something got stuck. I don't know why I've got coffee grinds in my. That's what it felt like.
Yeah.
It just kind of hit. I'm okay. We are okay.
Anyway. Yeah, that's right. Let's dive right back into the thing that almost killed you.
Go back to the well. This is Carson Wentz switching from the right to the left and just chucking it up.
You get right back on that horse.
Yeah, I may have thrown an interception last time, but
Finish your point now that you've finished dying.
What was I talking about? You can't review. You can't make it like, oh, let me throw a challenge flag on that roughing call.
Yeah,
I would.
Why?
It's just more judgment calls because then you get into
why is this a problem? The idea that the NFL is trying to remove all judgment from officiating is just stupid.
Listen,
officiating needs judgment.
Just
ensure you have good judgment.
I would say the judgment. I want the sky judge to be a part of it. Part of it is I don't want the coaches to have to waste a challenge because that rule's stupid too, right? The idea that a coach can challenge two plays, and if he only gets one of them right, he's out of challenge.
The whole challenge
is absurd.
The whole challenge system is dumb, but it only happens because we don't have a sky judge / TMO / person.
They have a sky judge. They just need to have a bigger impact.
Yeah.
So when Trevor Siemian gets touched and hit to the ground, when Ryan Tannehill barely gets touched, and you can tell it is just in the course of a play, like he threw the ball. And then he got hit.
Yes.
Throw, hit, and not even a big hit. And that's the other issue here too with roughing in general. It's almost like the impact of the hit affects.
It 100% does.
It affects things, right? This is why people have talked about Cam Newton, because he's huge and doesn't feel the impact as much, doesn't get roughing calls or whatever it is. Right?
Yes. So let's fix officiating right now. We're getting rid of challenges. It's a dumb idea that only exists because your system was broken in the first place. We're giving you the sky judge, which the AAF and the XFL are the same thing to me. They blended into one league, and I can't tell which one was different.
It's called spring ball.
One of them had a rugby-style TMO sky judge who's like the rugby's TMO, the television match official. Is a dude sitting there in a booth with all the screens and all the replays, and he is essentially the official in the room with all the TV broadcasts. So you don't have to send the guy on the field under a little hood to watch his little iPad and figure out what happened. You have a guy whose job it is to do that in the room and figure it out. So that guy is going to be there for every single game in the NFL, and he can buzz down to the official and say, hey, you screwed that up. That is not roughing the passer.
Right.
Done. Fixed.
All right. I'm
Agreed?
in. Let's do it.
Excellent.
All good with that.
That's binding at NFL. We just fixed your officiating for you. You're welcome.
So that was the end of the second quarter that happened. the interception. There's also just a bad – it's the second straight week. Tennessee hasn't really moved the ball effectively offensively. And, they've won both games without Derrick Henry. They've moved to 8-2.
29 carries for 66 yards, 54 of which came after contact.
Yeah. Adrian Peterson and Deontay Foreman both under 3 yards per carry. Jeremy McNichols under 2 yards per carry on his few rushes. We did mention second straight week against two good run defenses, number 1 and 2, Rams and Saints. That held true in these last couple weeks. But if you're the Titans, incredible run here to win all these games. I'm a little concerned about their offense now without Derrick Henry these last couple weeks because they scored on short fields each of the last 2 weeks. And they haven't scored a lot of points, but when they have scored, it's been on these short fields that have been given to them by the defense.
And no Julio Jones on IR again for the hamstring. The Titans didn't have a single explosive run in this game. They carried the ball 29 times, and not one of them was an explosive run. And remember,
A.J. Brown had the longest run with 7 yards.
This is an offensive line that is supposed to be a dominant run-blocking offensive line. All of a sudden, you're seeing the impact of Derrick Henry across the board. And it's like you're looking at Tennessee now, and they've gone on this run of, 5 straight games of knocking off impressive opponents or high leverage games or a combination of both of them. And yet it's had this really attritional effect of we've lost Derrick Henry, we've lost Julio Jones, the offense is sputtering, it's not going the way it should. Like we are just getting worn down and worn down. Eventually that's going to cause some problems. It hasn't yet, but it really does feel like we're right on the precipice of this Titans offense just grinding to a halt and eventually losing a game because of it.
Yeah, another win. I mean, you take it if you're the Titans. You're setting up to be the number 1 seed at 8-2. You also have not the most difficult schedule coming up.
Question is kind of like how long can they hang on without Derrick Henry, without Julio Jones?
We talked about on the daily. So the New England Patriots have the Falcons this week, and then they play the Titans with 10 days of rest in a couple weeks. That seems like the type of game where if Bill Belichick makes the Titans one-dimensional, and it's like all on Ryan Tannehill, that sounds like, Belichick versus Dolphins Tannehill, right? That could be trouble for the Titans in a couple weeks. So we'll see if they can keep it up. But a good win there. And for the Saints, it's not all on the refs. Trevor Siemian plays a good game again. A couple passes that just, good throws that didn't end up counting for him. No Alvin Kamara. Mark Ingram's catching wheel routes and everything. But the Saints fall to 5-4. And whether or not you want to completely blame the refs or whatever, I mean, their playoff hopes are on the line here every single week, and they're playing with a very fine margin with the depth in the NFC here. So
it's kind of fun. Like Trevor Siemian was legitimately fine in this game. Like
he was
reasonable. And
the QB grades across the week, other beyond Mac Jones and Josh Allen, are not great.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a below average week for quarterback play, and Siemian's on the higher end.
But like people were clamoring for Taysom Hill before this game, like basically being like, "What are you doing if you're the New Orleans Saints? How can you hand Taysom Hill any kind of contract and put him in there, or put Trevor Siemian in there instead? Like, what? That's just an embarrassment at this point." Trevor Siemian, like Sean Payton, deserves some kind of like medal for the work he's doing with non-Drew Brees quarterbacks. And honestly, given what Drew Brees was in San Diego for most of his time, again, like this is, post Tom Brady, Bill Belichick. Now we got to determine where the balance of like which guy was more important. The balance of the Sean Payton, Drew Brees era, I think, is shifting towards Sean Payton as time goes on, and we see the miracles he's performing with these substandard quarterbacks.
You're leaning into Drew Brees as a system quarterback take here.
I'm just amazed how not terrible Trevor Siemian has looked so far within this Payton offense.
Yeah, but like every backup quarterback, which Trevor Siemian is, right? He's a former starter who's a backup caliber. He's had good games before. He's had 2 good games before. The Broncos were 2-0 with Trevor Siemian at the helm before.
Not many of them, though.
Not many. We'll see if they can keep it up.
Has he even had good games before?
You gonna fact check me on this?
Yeah. I'm gonna look up. I'm gonna check. It had the air of bullshit about it, so I'm gonna take a look.
I will read. Football fans, who's ready to score some free bets? Now you can. When you bet on any NFL game this week with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, new customers who bet just $1 on either team to score can win $100 in free bets. That's right. You bet $1 on either team to score. You can win $100 in free bets when a team scores. You score. That's it. If Sportsbook isn't available in your state yet, DraftKings won't leave you empty-handed. Everyone can play for huge cash prizes all season long with DraftKings daily fantasy sports contests. And DraftKings is giving all new customers a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes with their first deposit. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code PFF. Bet $1 on either team to score, and you win $100 in free bets. If they score, you score with promo code PFF this week at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Must be 21 or older. New Jersey, Indiana, Pennsylvania only. New customers only. Minimum $5 deposit, $1 wager required. One per customer. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. So, these deals are incredible. Please go take advantage before they disappear over at DraftKings.
Trevor Siemian does have 4 games in his career that are graded around about where the last 2 games have been. Now, they come in 2 separate seasons and have always been separated by at least 3 games with grades in the 40s.
Okay. Nice.
So this is already an outlier for Trevor Siemian in terms of like career high performance.
All right. So Sean Payton, miracle worker over here.
Yes.
With quarterbacks.
And if the dude just got caught a break with a ridiculous pass or a ridiculous roughing the passer call, he would have gotten a win with Trevor Siemian against the best team in the AFC, apparently.
Washington football team 29, Bucs 19. This is one of those games where the Bucs were they double-digit favorites? It was up at 9.5. It was close. Either way, Bucs were favored by a lot. Didn't matter. Football team, really good. They get up to a 13-0 lead. It looked like the Bucs were going to make the comeback, and then the drive of the season for the football team to seal the deal. It was 23. So the Bucs score a touchdown in the fourth quarter, early fourth quarter, with 11:02 left to go down by 4. They missed the extra point, so it's 23-19. The football team comes back, takes 10 minutes and 26 seconds off the clock, go for it on 4th and 1 with 31 seconds left, which is the right call. They're up 4. They have a chance to either win it, essentially with a touchdown, or they get stuffed. Bucs have no timeouts left. Brady and the Bucs have to go 99 yards to try for a game-winning touchdown. Either way, Antonio Gibson with the 1-yard touchdown to seal it for the football team. The drive of the year, man, to seal this thing for the football team. Really impressive win, and this is one of those games where their defense played much better, and Brady and the Bucs not clicking offensively coming off the bye. A little concern maybe with the Bucs offense here.
Yeah, and turnovers this was another one of those games where they got in a big hole early. Things weren't going well. And you assume that, okay, there's still plenty of time to work with. We can get 14 points back. We can roll. And it just never quite happened. And particularly, that becomes a lot more challenging when they're able to take off like 11 minutes of the end of the game.
Right. That was what usually when you have the underdog, we talk about this a lot, right? The underdog's up. The favorite starts to come back. The Bucs get within 4. Should have been 3 with the extra point there. And it just felt like, okay, over time, the favorite's gonna make the comeback. And Mark Schlereth and I think it was Adam Aben, right? His partner there talking about, okay, with 10 minutes left, if you're the football team, you want to take some clock. You want to move the ball a little bit, and then you say, okay, are you going to give Brady and the Bucs 2 possessions, or are you going to give them 1 possession? And then they're just moving it. It's like, all right, now the Bucs are down to 1 possession.
Right.
Then it got to the point where the Bucs are down to 0 possessions left because the football team kept converting third down after third down. Really an incredible effort there to just thwart any comeback attempt. So Brady never actually got the ball in the fourth quarter within a score to make a comeback attempt.
That's the thing. They actually got in position to get this game back. And I was like, oh, this game is – all of a sudden this game – like the Washington defense have been doing a great job. They picked off Brady twice. All of a sudden you're like, this game is going to come down to Washington's defense making a stop against Brady. And what matters more – the first 3 quarters of this game or the last 9 weeks of the NFL season? Which is more relevant to whether Washington is actually going to be able to get a stop? And then you're like, oh, it turns out there's a third door, just never give them the ball back. That's how we stop the defense coughing up this game. We just ensure that they never take the field again. So that was really impressive. The first, which was ruled an interception that Brady threw, was one of the weirder plays you're ever going to see.
Yeah.
Throws the ball on a quick hitch, curl, whatever.
Rookie Jalen Darden.
To Darden, who sort of turns and starts trying to run away from the dude coming from behind him about to hit him in the back. And in the process of like tucking the ball away, gets hit in the back, which sort of means
ball
that
just pops up.
What it means that like instead of like catching it here and then bringing it into your body, when he got hit in the back, it changed everything. So that instead of like bringing it into his body, he just looped it around himself and like tossed it up in the air behind him. It's just bizarre. I don't think I've ever seen that. And just pops up, intercepted, and like, wow. It looked like someone had come in and popped it out.
Yeah.
But instead it was just they hit him so hard that his own arm like looped the ball behind him.
So not a turnover-worthy play there. The
No.
next interception by Brady throws it right to the safety. That was a turnover-worthy play. But that's what was happening early in the game here. A football team taking advantage of turnovers to get up to 13-0. And the Bucs never found a rhythm offensively. Brady not throwing the ball down the field. That had been the Bucs' MO. Not only the Bruce Arians, that's just how they work, right? Bruce Arians system. But even Brady with the Bucs throwing the ball, average depth of target among the highest in the league, throwing the ball down the field. No Antonio Brown, no Rob Gronkowski. Chris Godwin ended up playing just not looking like the same Bucs offense where they were attacking down the field at all. I thought the Washington football team did a nice job taking away some of the deeper stuff, but and Brady checked down a bunch to Leonard Fournette and the whole deal, but no rhythm for the Bucs offense. And credit the football team; they got pressure at the right time, not a ton, but on some key plays. And
yeah,
they, this was kind of what we had expected from football teams' defense throughout much of the season.
Well, this is what they've been capable
happened.
of all the way through the season. It just hasn't happened. Lost Chase Young for the season, torn ACL. That's an absolute body blow for them. Although, they're not winning anything. So I guess it's a good time for it to happen if it's going to happen. The other interception for Tom Brady, Mike Evans kind of took some responsibility for and was like, oh, neither of Brady's picks were on Brady, blah, blah. And you can kind of see there's some truth to that in terms of where Evans went versus where Brady wanted to throw the ball. On the other hand, it's another one of those ones where, like, even if the receiver did exactly what you wanted him to do, the best thing that's going to happen here is you're going to get him killed.
Yeah, it wasn't great. I think Brady came off his first read, right? Kind of threw it back blind over the middle.
And
He's
remember,
had a couple of those over the last couple of years.
Right,
here.
and recent weeks as well. And remember, Brady is the dude that was like lamenting the relaxation of the rules or the changing of the rules to make sort of hitting essentially illegal, right? Any kind of hit over the middle is typically a personal foul now. And he was like lamenting that, not because it's made the game soft, but because it's no longer punishing quarterbacks for making these bad throws that get their receivers injured. And since he's made that comment, he's had several of these throws that would have got his receivers killed had their receiver not decided, you know what,
he's playing the rules.
But he's like, you know what, I'm not really interested in getting killed today. Thank you, Tom. I'm going to let this one go. Also, by the way, remember there was the interception where Brady just stands and watches it? And you're like, well,
which was the right play, by the way.
Correct. On this play, however, he does exactly the same thing again, where it's a very different situation.
Yeah, the Saints one that was all over social media, he should have stood there because the game was literally over when he threw the pick.
But this one is late in the first quarter, and he watches the guy pick it off, hangs his head, and then just literally stands there, hands on knees, and just watches it.
Yeah, health.
The whole way. Doesn't even take a step in that direction.
Now, we'll talk about Teddy's later.
Right.
But,
I'm just saying.
Health is
In prefacing the Teddy thing, we're getting extensive documentation now of Tom Brady just watching interceptions head back in the opposite direction. Not only is he not making an attempt to tackle, he's not even moving himself between the ball carrier and the end zone. He's just watching the play develop.
Yeah. I would too.
I'm just keep that energy when we get to Teddy. That's all I'm saying.
Well,
consistency.
The
That's all I
returner
want.
did not run right by Tom.
You're telling me he would have moved if it had?
No, probably not.
Yeah.
Because Tom Brady playing football next week is more important to the Bucs than the interception return this week. Mm-hmm. Now, Teddy Bridgewater playing next week for the Broncos.
Stop
is
it.
Is it the most important thing for the Broncos?
I mean, it is Teddy.
So the Bucs fall to 6-3 here. Washington football team up to 3-6. The Bucs
still in the hunt, by the way. Have you seen the graphic? Like the Giants are a playoff contender.
Yeah, everybody's in the hunt.
Yep.
The Bucs fall to 6-3 after last week, where a whole bunch of teams failed, losing, and the Bucs looked like they have one of the easier schedules, and they have this golden opportunity to get to the number one seed. The Bucs just can't get out of their own way. Second straight loss now. did not come out sharp after the bye week, and it's going to be a battle in the NFC for the number 1 seed.
Do you think they even care? Like, did last week's or last season kind of teach them that, look, hey, just get to the big dance and then roll?
No.
Like, okay, you don't want to go. You don't want to go, and you're unlikely to go the way they went last year, which is wild card. We got to run on the road every week. But like, how much does this team really care about snagging that number 1 seed versus just get there? Like, if you have to roll through season dealing with a bunch of banged up cornerbacks, like half your secondary is injured, now you're losing receivers left and right.
No,
I think there is a significant degree to which they are like, it doesn't really matter. Like, once we get to the playoffs, we have Tom Brady and ideally a healthier group of players than we have right now. That's when it really matters.
No, that's a different question, right? Richard Sherman was ruled out just before the game as well. Washington football team was 11 of 18 on third down. They were just convert. Taylor Heineke made a ton of really good tight window throws, but the Bucs, the football team kept converting on third down. The Bucs couldn't get off the field on third down. But I don't think the Bucs are looking at this like, oh, we'll just have 4 road games again next year. We could do it again. It's a different year too. Like, there's actually crowds in these road games and all that stuff. It is. I think they want to play at home. I think they would want that number 1 seed, and the Bucs have to play better than they have the last couple weeks.
I mean, everybody wants.
Bruce Arians called his team stupid. He said we were a stupid football team.
Fair enough.
His post-game comments are always funny.
Everybody wants to get the number 1 seed. I'm just wondering to what extent they really care.
Yeah, it would be short-sighted to say, hey, we won it as a wild card team on the road last year. Let's do that again. Anyway, the huge game, a huge week for the Packers as they go up. They win 17-0 over the Seahawks, and now they're in control of that number 1 seed in the NFC after that slow start to the year when they got owned by the Saints. So what'd you think of the 17-0 Packers game? We called it it's the Rust Bowl, not Russ. Double Rust game.
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson.
Well, officially, according to the grades, Mallet Finger was significantly more rusty than Rodgers.
I would argue
Nope.
that Russ is still probably hurt and not rusty.
You
because
claimed
he's not 100%.
You said he was fine. You said he's the 3rd greatest healer of all time after Jesus and Wolverine, and therefore Russ was going to be okay with the mallet finger.
Yeah, he's still 3rd. He's not the best.
Because he had practice. He got out there and he was able to throw the ball to real humans, therefore all was well.
I was saying he wouldn't be as rusty because he got to practice.
People were in the comments mocking you because you were like, the dude that sat in his ass doing yoga for a week is going to be rusty as hell, but the guy whose finger was in a cast for the last X number of weeks is going to be all good.
I wonder how he did in his simulated games. Do you think he threw the end zone interception in his sim game too when he rolled out to his left?
I don't know.
Russ was, I mean, look,
I liked it in the broadcast. They were giving us a rundown of like what Rodgers has been doing over the last 10 days, isolated with the COVID, and he'd been doing isolated yoga. So of course he was going to be game ready.
Yeah, he's ready to go.
Because nothing gets you game ready for a football game like yoga on your own in your own house. Maybe
that's why he's rusty. Both QBs trading horrible end zone interceptions, trying to do too much. I mean, it's not uncharacteristic of Russ to try to make that type of play. Really uncharacteristic. Not that, like, Russ generally takes care of the ball, but Rodgers really takes care of the ball. I mean, the two of them have one of the lowest, like, each of them has one of the lowest turnover-worthy and interception rates ever. And for them to basically go back-to-back trading absurd interceptions thrown straight to defenders was kind of bizarre. Yeah. The Packers, now back-to-back weeks, only gave up 13 points.
They've given up 44 points at home this season.
It's incredible, and it doesn't look on paper like a much better defense than last year, other than maybe Devondre Campbell stepping up. But they've done a really nice job. New scheme, limiting those big plays. Tackling's been great, and how much was the finger an issue for Russell Wilson? I think it affected a few throws.
Yeah,
but I think the Packers deserve a ton of credit defensively.
That defense, looks pretty good. Also, another thing that was kind of a big problem for Seattle is that poor old Dwayne Brown is just slowing down.
Oh yeah, so they're starting left tackle Dwayne Brown. Just remembering historically, the Seahawks went through a stretch where they had a bottom 3 offensive line.
They went through a stretch where, like, the thing, Russell Wilson being all upset about how many hits he was taking this offseason, there was a time where that would have been an absolutely fair thing to be complaining about. Like, guys, give me some help here. I am getting buried every single play. Come on. And then they went and they traded for Dwayne Brown. And Dwayne Brown made as big a difference as a single offensive lineman has made to an offensive line in recent memory. Like, he alone transformed the overall effect of that line as much as any single player.
In part. Now, when you say that, it's in part. It's the same thing that happened with Laramie Tunsil and the Houston Texans. When a team goes from the worst left tackle situation to above average, which is what Dwayne Brown has been. Remember, it was George Fant coming off like the basketball court, playing left tackle, and then Reese Odiambo. Both guys were horrible until Dwayne Brown got there. But that one player takes your line from like bottom 3 to, bottom 12. So that's what Dwayne Brown had done.
Yeah, they went from like
Seattle.
Utterly wretched to being below average.
Yeah.
Which is huge. Like, that's a massive that's from like non-viable to viable, which is the only important line to cross, right? Like, just go from this literally does not work. You cannot function behind this offensive line to, okay, this isn't great. It's not good. We're not in a great situation. On the other hand, we can work with it. That's the difference that Dwayne Brown made. Now, all of a sudden, like, Dwayne Brown is just looking like a guy who's kind of gotten old, because he has. It's just, it would be annoying if you're Dwayne Brown. You're sort of watching Andrew Whitworth, a few years still ahead of you, who still looks fine. That would be kind of irritating to me.
Whitney Merciless bull rushes him in there for a sack. 6 total pressures for Dwayne Brown. So a bit of a concern for the Seahawks in their offensive line. Now, the Seahawks defense, I thought, also played well. It's an odd game. It was 3-0 at the half. It was the lowest scoring first half in the NFL this year. And you wouldn't expect that with an Aaron Rodgers versus Russell Wilson game. But I thought both defenses played well. Both quarterbacks definitely either missed some throws or put the ball in harm's way a couple times when they shouldn't have, certainly in the red zone. But I thought Seattle did a really nice job handling the underneath stuff, coming up, and they were hitting hard, man. I mean, I don't know where they're going this year, or if it's just too late for Seattle in general. But I will say, as bad as that defense has looked at times over these last couple of years, this could be the best little stretch they've had of at least flying around the football and making some adjustments, not just having the old school cover 3, getting beaten by the same concepts. They're playing a little bit better on that side of the ball, but it was just, they had no chance offensively, Seattle. So 17-0. The Packers defense wins the day again. Rashawn Gary hurt in this one. He came out early, but 81 grade on the season. Breakout year for Gary here in year 3. We might not be able to see him continue that going forward.
And, the Packers, so their defense has been impressive. Rodgers wasn't great in this game. You assume that that's rust, and next game he'll be fine. For them to get a win, huge, because they obviously stay right in contention at the thick of things, chasing that number 1 seed. Seattle are kind of dealing with a similar situation in terms of, all right, their quarterback didn't play well either. His road back to being what he used to be might be a little bit longer, and they didn't get the win out of it. Like, they dropped the game while their quarterback didn't play great, so they're now in a hole. It's the NFC, and that 7th seed is just going to be chaos. So it's not like they're out of it, but they are rapidly running out of games they can lose and still come away with that 7th seed.
Yeah, so the Packers are tied with the Cardinals at 8-2. And here's why I think the bye is so important in the NFC. If the playoffs started today, of course, the Cowboys would have the number 3 seed. They would play the Panthers, I believe. Am I doing this right? No, sorry. The Cardinals would play the Panthers in a little rematch. We'll talk about that game in a second. But the Cowboys would play the Saints. That's, the Saints could easily pull that upset against the Cowboys. The Bucs would play the Rams. The Rams are the number 5 seed at the moment. So, like, in the NFC, you're talking about your 5th and 6th seed in the NFC, really dangerous, and could win these road games. So if you're the Packers, the Cardinals, Cowboys, Bucs, Rams, all these teams that are in contention for that number 1 seed in the bye, I think it's huge, because any of those teams could also lose in the first round. Now, you could say the same thing in the AFC because of the depth there, and who wants to play the 6th-seeded Patriots or the 7th-seeded Chargers in the first round. Anything can happen there. I do think this year, any year though, the number 1 seed is more valuable than ever, because there's only one, and there's not two buys. There's only one buy now. So the Packers take control of it, and they've got one loss now with Aaron Rodgers as their starter. So big win for them. And what does Seattle fall to? 3-6.
Which puts them right there with every other 3-6 team in the NFC.
Yeah, I mean the Panthers actually, again, they have the 7 seed right now at 5-5. So the Seahawks with Russ, a healthy Russ, can go on a run here, and be right in the mix. You have to jump teams like the Giants, the football team, the 49ers, the Eagles, Falcons.
They're
Vikings.
still it's not over, but I guess they're running out of games that they can afford to lose and still make it.
Right. So they're also three spots from the bottom in the NFC.
Yeah.
It's the other way to look at it, tied with the Bears and ahead of the Lions.
It wouldn't be an NFL weekend with a tied game without a player subsequently coming out saying he had no idea you could tie a game in the NFL.
What?
Yeah. Najee Harris didn't know that you could tie a game. Thought he had a whole nother quarter to work with.
What? Why?
I mean, look, they could have given him 16 more carries for 22 more yards, and that would have been enough. But instead, it's a tie.
I mean, some guys are just football players and they actually don't watch the NFL. Like, they're not NFL fans.
It feels like at this point there should be it should be part of the rookie orientation, right? Yeah. Like, okay, now you're in the NFL, you're getting paid to do this, you need 2 feet in for it to be a catch. Yeah. And if the game
it's a tie game at the end, here's
the game ends at the end of overtime, it's a tie. You don't have another quarter to work with.
Here's how our overtime's going to work.
Right.
Here.
There's like a 5. Somebody puts up the PowerPoint presentation. There's like 5. Here are the 5 things that are different between college and the NFL, and tie games are a thing is one of them. One of the bullets at the bottom. Everybody should know that. Now you go on with your business. But instead, every time there's a tie, there's at least one dude comes out and is like, "Yeah, I had no idea."
Yeah, because I thought it was just Donovan McNabb.
No.
All right, Minnesota Vikings 27, Chargers 20. The Vikings, man, they did not let the Chargers back in. When they needed to seal the deal, 4th and short runs, Dalvin Cook converts. Kirk Cousins, another good couple turnovers early, or turnover-worthy plays at least early. Tried to throw an end zone interception to the player. But
well done.
I'm on that right now.
Uh-huh.
But Cousins playing another pretty clean game, and Justin Jefferson, after a couple quiet weeks, just takes over, man. I still think he has this in him every single week if you want it. Justin Jefferson, uncoverable in his on his best days.
Yeah, it's funny. So the end of this game was like this idea, the Chargers' run defense. You remember the idea that like the run and shoot went out of vogue because when you got late in the game and you were trying to run the ball to eat the clock the way Washington did, you couldn't do that.
Yeah.
So you would turn it over because you would try and run the ball. You wouldn't just play the run and shoot consistently, which would have been a way of stopping that being a problem, Hey, we can't run the ball to eat up the clock, so how about we don't try and we just keep putting up points the way we've been doing the rest of the game.
Yeah.
Anyway, the fact that they couldn't run the ball was why that goes out of vogue. The Chargers inviting everybody to run because that's a less efficient way of playing and therefore not really having any kind of run defense, all of a sudden becomes a problem when you need to stop the run late in the game in order to get the ball back to have a chance of winning. They're
inviting people, but they just don't have good
that's what I'm
personnel.
saying. So they're inviting people to run the ball, and they don't have the players because they don't want to invest in it because they're inviting people to run the ball. But there are times where you need to be able to stop the run, and the Chargers didn't. They couldn't do it this game.
Yeah, I think it's a huge point, right? They have not had that personnel. They have not had that defensive line personnel for a while. So just to hammer it home, I do think this offseason a huge one for the Chargers in that department, just like they spent all offseason trying to fix their offensive line. Maybe it's the interior, the defensive line that they're looking at this offseason because, again, I do think run defense is valuable because there are these plays, whether it's 3rd and short or just the 4th quarter when you do need to make some stops and have guys just win blocks, right? And the other part of it is if you're going to play with lighter boxes, you need guys even more so that can win blocks because you're not going to be able to protect your linebackers as much, right? So you need good linebackers, you need good interior defensive players to play the run, and the Chargers just don't have that. And I think a couple times this year it has caught up to them.
The Vikings are the only team in the NFL that has held a 7-point lead in every game this year.
Incredible stat. And they're up 4-5 now, up to 4-5. Very much in the mix in the NFC.
Yeah.
The Vikings feel like that they would be the scariest one that gets in, right? Because
they're definitely a team
Cousins having a career year
with a lot of potential.
Yes, and Cousins just not missing a ton of throws. He was under pressure yesterday a bunch, and he was still making a bunch of throws. Bad fumble. He had a bad fumble, red zone, near interception. Other than that, just continues to throw the ball as accurately as any quarterback in the league right now. But then again, defensively, the coverage unit for the Vikings, they've been stifling. This after a really slow start. Eric Kendricks, another incredible play. What an interception he had. Just, turns and runs with the defender, finds the ball, diving
with Keenan
interception.
Allen.
Yeah,
right? So this is like,
it was incredible.
That was the game. A lot of the times in the NFL, it's offenses are trying to find, clear mismatches, and it's just an automatic. It's like an auto retweet when you see a certain person. Like this is like an automatic throw the ball. You see Keenan Allen going across the field with a linebacker turning and running with him in coverage. Like you're not even thinking at that point. You're just putting the ball in the air because that's the jackpot in terms of what you're looking for in offense. But the linebacker in question is Eric Kendricks, who is able to both turn, run with Keenan Allen, and find the football and pick it off. Like it's ridiculous. He might be the only linebacker in the NFL that can consistently make that play. He's been fantastic this season and was great in this game as well. It's one of those plays that when you watch it on the TV, all you really see is the ball arrive in tight coverage, effectively to Eric Kendricks, right? And you're like, But when you watch what actually happened on the play, you're like, that is an incredible coverage play by the linebacker.
Yeah, it really was. And I think overall, this game, when we talk about how dangerous Minnesota is, the pass defense is starting to look more Zimmer-like, right? So that's keeping them in games, right? They're in every single game. But you have the Justin Jefferson factor, man, I think is as big as any of them, right? I mean, when we talked about what the Browns hoped to get from Odell Beckham was this type of game, right? Where maybe, Adam Thielen's fine and whatever, but you just have a number one receiver that in any given week can take over. Just like a Derrick Henry in any given week can make up for a lesser passing attack or whatever it is, even if it's 3 or 4 times a year. Dalvin has shown that he could do that as a runner. He hasn't done it as much this year, but in last year against the Packers, he did it, right? The Vikings have these offensive players that can just take over games, and as long as Cousins is, making decent decisions and getting the ball down the field to them, it makes them very, very dangerous. The
Justin Jefferson dynamic is interesting though, because last week didn't see the ball much at all, and Zimmer was like, yeah, we need to get him the ball more. So all of a sudden you see a 14 target game, and he comes up with an 11 target game, 9 catches, 143 yards. But there's no reason that can't happen every week, except that's not really how this offense functions. But it does feel like if you just there are teams that are good enough where if you are force feeding one player that degree, it probably is not maximizing the efficiency. And actually potentially makes you worse. The Vikings, I think, are not that good. So if their most efficient offense is probably force feeding Justin Jefferson, giving Adam Thielen the targets that Justin Jefferson opens up by being force fed, and then offsetting that with some runs with Dalvin Cook. The end, right?
Yeah.
They're the other targets you're giving people are probably not worth just giving Justin Jefferson another shot to make a play. And honestly, that should be their default position from here on in. Let's just get this guy at least 12 targets a week and see what happens.
Yeah, I'd be all for that, man. I think that's the way Minnesota should be playing. Any concerns with Justin Herbert? He's coming off of a really great game against the Philadelphia Eagles, taking all the underneath stuff, which we had talked about before, but not that you would take out that game. The Eagles seem like a different dynamic that QBs are going up against. But, not so good game against the Ravens, okay against the Patriots, okay against the Vikings. Bit of a, other than one game, Justin Herbert, a little bit of a downturn here as the Chargers fall to 5-4.
An okay game against the Mike Zimmer defense, an okay game against the Baltimore Ravens defense. His last okay game was earlier in the season against the Cowboys defense, which has those games where it's really good.
Yeah.
His 3 meh performances have all been against pretty imposing defenses that you can, whether or not they're like great over an entire stretch, they're all good enough in a single game to cause any quarterback problems. So outside of that, it's like consistently excellent. So I'm not concerned.
My little, not even concerned, but I would say his big time throw rate, he's got one big time throw in each of the last 4 games. This is, and last year this happened too, right?
I was going to say, like that, for as much as Justin Herbert in your brain is a guy that like makes these incredible big throws, absurd passes every single week, he's never actually made that high a rate of them in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, last year was a higher rate. I mean, it was 1.5% higher last year than this year. And last year it did feel like he had more.
Right.
I'm worried average depth of target. It's similar to last year too, but it's down these last couple weeks. I'm wondering if Herbert is kind of like what I had said about Derek Carr at times and Matthew Stafford at times where, perhaps you've got this guy who can throw a good seam route, can throw the cover 2 hole shot, can make all these throws, and you have to let him unleash them. And, if he turns it over a couple more times here and there, because his turnover-worthy play rate overall is great. I wonder if you just have to be a little bit more aggressive if you're the Chargers, throwing the ball down the field. If they're going to be forward-thinking and fourth downs and, run defense is overrated and all that stuff, I would be a little bit more forward-thinking and letting Justin Herbert flip the field a little bit more, right? That's what he does. Where are we going here? Carolina 34, Cardinals 10, as expected.
Yeah.
Cam Newton, MVP. Listen, Cam Newton.
Stop.
When he's on the field for the Panthers, they average 34 points.
This year.
Against the number 1 seed in the NFC coming into this game.
Yeah. Who still were starting Colt McCoy at quarterback.
Yeah. Colt McCoy with a 29 grade and 3 turnover-worthy plays on. Oh man, he really did come back down to earth this week, huh? Before getting hurt.
This was another one of those games, though. Again, like where look how this game was done after like 3 minutes.
Oh, it was over. Yeah. Cam Newton comes in with a rushing and passing touchdown on he had 5 dropbacks. Those how many total rushes did he have here?
3.
3 total rushes, 2 first downs. They want Cam to start. PJ Walker with an average depth of target under 4, so he managed the game.
Oh yeah,
well enough.
Managed the hell out of it.
PJ.
So this game was 17-0 by the end of the first quarter, and the first 3 drives that the Cardinals had were all turnovers. Okay, one of them was a turnover on downs, but still.
No, they gave the ball back to the Panthers.
Right. It was turnover.
Or the Panthers got it back.
But it doesn't like count as when they pull up like turnovers, in the game on the broadcast, it's like 2.
Now, some at PFF would suggest that a punt is a turnover.
Sure.
You at least get to get some field position back with that one.
I would argue that's not a turnover as much as it's a
punt.
It's a voluntary
turnover.
It's a voluntary bequeathing of possession to the opposition, Like a turnover on downs, you attempted to extend the drive.
VBOP.
Sure. A punt, you are voluntarily giving them possession. It's different. Voluntary versus involuntary. But anyway, so they immediately turn it over. Like it was like a fumble on like the 3rd play, right? 3rd down, sack, fumble. The Carolina Panthers obviously set up in great position. Christian McCaffrey looks really good as soon as they get the ball in these short fields. And then when they get in the shadow of the goal line, Cam Newton is a literal cheat code for offense. Yeah. Like, if he does nothing other than provides them a guaranteed first down every time they're in short yardage situations, he's a hell of an addition to an offense. But since PJ is your other option, he'll probably be the starting quarterback and be better there as well. But so they get that, 7-0 right out of the gate on a possession that Arizona started with. Then they immediately, I don't think it was 3 and out. I think they got a penalty in there somewhere. But like 4 turnover on downs, immediately go nowhere again. All of a sudden, bam, 14. So now you're just buried. Like you're in a hole. This was a game you were supposed to be potentially winning, and a couple of minutes have gone off the clock. You've done nothing, and the opposition has 14 points. And then they turn over again. Like they were in just such a deep hole right off the bat that the game is gone. Like at the end of the first quarter, it's game over because you have Colt McCoy as your quarterback. You don't have DeAndre Hopkins. The idea that even if you're in this hole anyway, maybe Kyler Murray could make some magic happen, when you change the game plan that amount.
Sure.
But if Colt McCoy is your quarterback and you're down 3 scores,
no, Colt,
we're done.
We said it last week.
We're going home.
Colt did a nice job. Again, the same thing PJ Walker did this week, but with much better stats. Colt McCoy threw the ball, averaged up the target under 4, kept the ball underneath. 49ers defense was not good last week. The Cardinals ran the ball. I mean, I think that was the difference, right? The Panthers defense has been, early in the year, they were one of the league's best. They settled back down a little bit. They're still a very good defense, the Panthers. Ability to create pressure and make plays on the ball. Shaq Thompson's having a great year at linebacker. We saw that again yesterday. So the Panthers defense is better than what the Niners trotted out there last week, and it was really tough for the Cardinals to keep pace once they got into that hole. So once again, Panthers, if the playoffs started today, these guys would have a rematch today, which would be weird because they played yesterday. That'd be tough with no break. But obviously the Cardinals, it's tough for them to hold the fort with no Kyler Murray, with no DeAndre Hopkins. The fact that they went 1-1, including a division game in that stretch, is good. We'll see if Kyler can be back soon.
Yeah,
the Cardinals are 8-2.
They really need him back. And this is one of those injuries where, remember, it wasn't supposed to affect him at all, and then all of a sudden it's, okay, now we're actually missing a game, and then we're missing another game. It's one of those injuries that appears to be dragging on, a lot longer.
They're at Seattle next week, and then they have the Thanksgiving weekend. The Cardinals have the bye. So if they're going to, there might be reason to force them back.
They could effectively end Seattle's season with that game.
It's a big game. I mean, it's always tough going into Seattle. Russ is back, another week removed from mallet finger recovery. And even with the bye coming up after that, I don't know if you do want to try to force Kyler back or not.
Remember,
if you can. But
Russ is the 3rd greatest healer in the history of everything. So another week is
week of healing.
That's like 3 years to normal people.
Another week of healing for Russell Wilson.
19 hours of rehabbing the finger.
All right, we got one other 4 o'clock game. Philadelphia Eagles 30. Denver Broncos 13. Another one. Denver last week on the road dominates the Eagles division rival, the Dallas Cowboys, the team that's the number 3 seed right now in the NFC. This game, the complete opposite. Eagles 30-13. Another game where the Eagles run the ball a ton. 3 different guys with 10+ carries.
Can you imagine how different their season would have been if they'd realized this from week 1?
Yeah.
Instead of accidentally stumbling into this a few weeks ago. Hey, when we run the ball, our offensive line destroys people. How about we just do that all the time? And then, Jalen Hurts can make some things happen off the back of that, but that's the basis of this offense. Instead, for the first 5-6 weeks of the season, it was Jalen Hurts everything is going through you. We're never going to run the ball. You're going to be the run threat, and we'll just see how that goes.
Yeah.
That feels like some questionable, game planning.
And we are team, pass on early downs and all that stuff. But sometimes you play to your team's strengths. And Jordan Howard's been really nice since bringing him over. And Boston Scott, he had some late runs and everything. Jalen Hurts carries the ball 14 times for 53 yards, both scrambles plus design. But
you're going to dismiss Boston Scott's magic with late runs.
Boston Scott's awesome.
Good.
It's so tough to tackle. Can't even see him. Hides behind the line, just
it's a really small guy.
Zooms right out. But when you only drop back, 24, 25 times, it does take a lot of pressure off Jalen Hurts, the passer, and hides some of his inconsistencies. The biggest play of this game, of course, is the Melvin Gordon fumble. I think it was on 4th down. The fumble, Darius Slay picks it up, drops it. Were you watching? When you're watching that play, you're just like, Darius, listen, it's 4th down. You got the ball. Go down. I was thinking Darius Slay, just go down.
Darius Slay is so. There's a few defenders when they get the ball, they actually, the cliche of he turns into a running back, right? But there's a few of those guys that are legitimately good at finding space and
Miles Jack
and making things happen and actually are a threat to score as opposed to just will get whatever's there, in front of them. Darius Slay is one of those guys where if you give him a little bit of space to work with, that dude's got a real shot of bringing it back for a touchdown.
Yeah, well, he did.
Yes.
Was it 83 yards? Am I making that up? It felt like 83 yards. There was a point where he ran it from the 17, I think. So what was the actual? Yeah, 83 yards. An actual 83-yard return.
Okay.
I feel like his fumble, they added the
yardage. Well, they probably gave it to him from the point where he picked it back up. Right?
Yeah, because he fumbled and recovered at the 17.
Yeah.
So he was just padding his fumble return yards is what he was doing. But it was a 7-point game at the time, and of course, everyone is taking some shots at Teddy Bridgewater for not taking any shots at Darius Slay and letting him run right by him.
Teddy business decision is catching crap.
I'm not allowed to call Teddy a bridge quarterback, but look, if you want to continue your career as a bridge to the next guy, you got to stay healthy.
At the very minimum, you can't be complaining about Teddy Bridgewater mailing this one in if you were also complaining about Baker Mayfield injuring his shoulder trying to stop a dude on a pick six, right?
Yeah.
At the very minimum, let's ask for that level of consistency. Then you get to the discussion of whether you want your quarterback getting involved in that kind of play at all. And honestly, I don't care. I can see an argument for either side. I can see an argument that the quarterback is the most valuable thing you have, so don't stick your head at a guy who's running full tilt in the opposite direction because you can Baker Mayfield yourself. You can tear your labrum, be done for the whole season, or playing badly for the whole year. It's just not worth the risk. On the other hand, I can also see the argument of it's football, it's a contact sport, you can get injured in any given play, at least get in his way. I can see either case. And I don't have a tremendously strong take in either direction. I just asked for some consistency. Keep whatever energy you had for the Baker Mayfield thing with Teddy. And acknowledge the fact that Tom Brady, every time he throws a pick, stands there in the center and watches the play.
Teddy business decision. I like that.
Maybe Teddy's problem is that he actually initially moved in the direction of the thing so that it looked worse when it ran right by him and he just didn't touch him.
He thought about it?
Right. If he'd done what Brady did and just stood there and watched the play, nobody would care.
Again, Brady's interception, This week, yeah. I am team. Because let me remain consistent here.
Okay.
Let me just give my take here.
Let me just prepare myself for the mental gymnastics that are about to occur.
I'm okay with it. All of it. I was a little critical of Baker Mayfield.
Okay.
So I can't be critical of Teddy in this case. Now your health. Playing football next week is more important than stopping a play this week. For multiple weeks. So I was a little critical of Baker Mayfield and other quarterbacks who just don't want to give up on plays and don't want to live to fight another day and stay healthy in the whole thing. And I think I want to remain consistent in that. I think the one time when you would, like the Cam Newton fumble in the Super Bowl that he got criticized for, that's different.
Yes.
I think that's a lot. There's no health next week.
That's also, I mean, we're not getting down this rabbit hole, but that always struck me as a weird play.
The whole thing was weird. All I'm saying is if I don't want to break down that play. I'm saying, like, if you're in the playoffs, if you're in the Super Bowl, things are different. Like, if Teddy was in the playoffs right now and he made that play, I might say, go make it.
Right.
I think as the season progresses, you might make different decisions.
Yeah.
And I think that's okay. Now, to that point, Baker Mayfield trying to make that tackle against the Houston Texans in week 3 is also different.
It was about the least consequential play you could possibly try and make.
It is different. Like, you're going to win that game.
That being said,
you're going to win the Texans game.
They were struggling in that game.
They were. All I'm saying
but it's week 2.
That's a little
Texans.
different.
Like, who cares?
To me, that's a little different. The Broncos are fighting for their playoff lives. And we might be getting to the point in the season where you might make different business decisions.
Yeah,
how's
but
that
like
mental gymnastics?
I think there's a difference between you are in the playoffs and are therefore a contending team and the season is on the line here versus your playoff lives are on the line because you're not a good team and are unlikely to make it anyway.
They were 5-4. Nobody in the locker room's like, man, we're really lucky to be 5-4 here,
Yeah, but
look, the power rankings had us at 3-6 at this point. We're 5-4. We're really overachieving. I think we're going to regress to the mean. That's what's going on.
But
going through Teddy's head.
This week, the New York Giants' playoff lives are on the line, right? Like, it's because they're bad and they're 3-6 and they're not going to make the playoffs. Like, that doesn't change when you should be doing that.
The Broncos would be in first place if they won this game.
Okay, but they didn't because they're not very good.
They had first place on the line.
Yeah.
Ish.
They're also like the third favorite to win the division.
Doesn't matter. That doesn't matter.
It does. If you're talking about like when you should override the default position of you don't make that play, right?
You know how things
that's your default start, right? Your starting position when this happens is you're a quarterback, don't make the play unless it's the playoffs, right? Then you're like, okay, so in the playoffs you make the play because suddenly your season is on the line. And then some point in the regular season, your playoff lives are on the line as well. So you can kind of make it then, but obviously not in week 2 because that's silly. But, like, we're now week 10, and the Broncos are probably not making the playoffs.
If it was week 14, maybe you make the play.
Yeah, because all of a sudden you're now closer to actually being a contending playoff team.
It's getting a little crazy now. We've dissected it too much. So you know how sometimes like you're amazed at how quickly your brain fires through scenarios and stuff like that?
Oh, routinely. I'm constantly amazing myself with just how smart I am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, just like, you know, you hear like a sound and you're like, oh, it could be this, and just like things happen quickly. So that's like Teddy Bridgewater's brain here. There's a fumble.
Yeah.
I'm going to tackle him. But wait, we're 5-4. But 5-4 sounds pretty good. However, everyone in our division is over 500. Actually, we've got the third best opportunity to win the division here. The Chiefs are getting hot. Mahomes probably going to tear it up tonight. I'm backing off. So that's all that went through his head, like calculating win probabilities and division odds. And we're 5-4, but we're an overrated 5-4, and we're probably going to end up at 5-5. We're already down 7. What's another touchdown in this game? Who cares? Like all that's going through his head, and he was like, nope, I'm not going. Seems reasonable.
I'm fine with it.
This is all plausible.
Yeah, I'm okay with it.
So final take is you're good? You're good with Teddy?
I'm happy with it either way. If he'd made the play, I would be fine with it. If he hadn't, if he just stands there and watched it go by him, I'm kind of okay with that as well. I think I would default.
Here's what I like. I like that people who when people say, oh, the same people who said this say that, right? I mean, likely a lot of the same people who were very upset that Aaron Rodgers deceived them or whatever it was actually suggested that Teddy should have like a fake flailing attempt. At least fake the flailing attempt, which is also deception, right? Let me fake my attempt at not making this tackle. It's the same thing. So he's either all in or he's all out. He chose to be all out, and guess what? Teddy Bridgewater is the starting quarterback next week for the Denver Broncos.
Yeah, I mean, I think my default position would be if you're getting paid to play football, this is part of the game. Just try and make a tackle. Like, you're a big human. This is, you're a football player. This is kind of part of your gig. No,
that went through his mind too. I'm not a big human. I am Teddy Bridgewater. I'm 205 pounds with skinny knees.
That's still 205 pounds. That's a lot bigger than a lot of other people.
Not when Darius Slay's moving that fast.
How much does Darius Slay weigh?
I don't know, 200 pounds?
Right. So, all right, you're bigger than he is. Take him down.
And it was a huge play. Eagles played a good football game. Teddy did not complete 85% of his passes like the other AFC West quarterbacks. So the Eagles did a much better job defensively in this one.
All Devontae Smith needed to remember that he can moss people at the catch point was to play another rookie.
Yeah, Bama on Bama crime in the end zone.
Yeah.
Over Patrick Surtain, too. Devontae with some huge plays, playing big.
Yeah. Quez Watkins had a couple of plays, dropped one that would have been another touchdown.
Yeah.
The Jalen Hurts thing is interesting, though. Jim Nagy was making this point that, hey, the Eagles are still on course for that 3 ridiculously high first-round draft picks, and right now none of them are going to be better than Jalen Hurts is at the moment. Like, based off the way the college season has gone for all the prospective quarterbacks that we expect to be in the first round of the draft, none of these guys are clear upgrades over Jalen Hurts. The Eagles have positioned themselves for this draft to have all the ammunition in the world so that if Jalen Hurts doesn't look good, they can go draft the next guy. They can draft the franchise dude at the top. Right now, you're looking at 3 first-round draft picks to essentially go wherever the hell you want, and none of them are obviously better than Hurts.
I think they're in position to roll with Hurts for at least 2 years, take advantage of so part of the advantage of the NFL is first contract quarterback. You don't have the 5th-year option on Hurts. He'll have 2 more seasons on a rookie contract. It might be the play, is to say with Jalen Hurts, with what he brings as a runner, he's been inconsistent as a passer, but he still gets there. You use the 3 first-round picks. It's going to only be 2, right? I mean, Wentz is not going to be a first-round pick.
Why not?
Because he's probably going to play the rest of the year.
That's why it will be a first-round pick.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm just thinking backwards here. So you're probably going to get 3 first-round picks. You use them to just stack up your roster around Jalen Hurts. And part of the strategy might not be like we have to draft. We spend a ton of time saying you got to draft a guy. And even this year, Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, like these guys aren't locks necessarily. So you know what you have in Jalen Hurts. You have 2 years to try to win a Super Bowl, whatever, make a run with him on the rookie contract, take advantage of those first-round picks, and build that roster back up. That might be the play. For the Eagles.
You end up in a situation where you're either doing that. Well, okay, in an ideal world, there would be a superstar quarterback that we draft with these 3 first-round picks, and that's our guy. But we you don't see one. So what if we took the 3 first-round picks and added them, just added players to a roster that has Jalen Hurts at quarterback? The other alternative might be, all right, if the draft is no longer an option, what will 3 first-round picks buy us in terms of an already established NFL quarterback? So is a Russell Wilson an option this offseason?
Yeah, that was the other thing I was going to say.
Is an Aaron Rodgers an option? Is a Deshaun Watson an option once his legal stuff is worked out? There's got to be a better way of phrasing that. Like, once Deshaun Watson becomes a quarterback that teams are, not even teams, once Deshaun Watson is either guilty or not guilty of sexually harassing, assaulting, and doing whatever else to a bunch of different women, he potentially becomes a starting quarterback option going forward. So I wonder if they take essentially the draft capital that they built up and instead pivot it to an already established NFL entity.
I absolutely think the reason to build up draft capital is to have those options, is to say, Malik Willis or Sam Howell or Spencer Rattler before he got benched, whoever could develop into this guy that we want to draft, or we now are in the best position to get another top quarterback in Aaron Rodgers, whoever could be out there to make our run. So I think the Eagles are in decent position there, and the better Hurts plays, I don't think it makes it worse for them. I think it's fine because he's not a bad fallback option because you can win a couple different ways. We have one more game, right? Sunday Night Football?
Yep.
The Chiefs are back, baby.
The Chiefs are back.
41-14 over the Las Vegas Raiders. Very old school feel to the Chiefs offense. However, how much of this was the way the Raiders played them versus what other teams had done? Did the Raiders just come out of the game plan that had thwarted the Chiefs in recent weeks?
I mean, they didn't come out of it. They just didn't go near it. Like, this was the thing. Going into this game, you're like, here's the decision the Raiders have to make. There is a clear and defined blueprint to slowing down and frustrating the Chiefs offense based off this season. You play a lot of too high, cover 4, cover 6. You flood coverage with defenders. You take away the deep shot, and you make them go on methodical, boring drives to score points. And Patrick Mahomes apparently told the Sunday Night Football guys, Chris and Al, that it's not in his nature to play that way. Like, this is part of the thing. Which is a genuinely interesting thing to put out there in the public world, right? You effectively have said, this is my weakness. I do not play the game well in this way. And by the way, that's the way most teams have forced me to play this year. I thought that was kind of an interesting thing to put out there, but he did, and essentially confirmed what everybody else has been saying, that you frustrate Mahomes and that Chiefs offense by forcing them to play the game this way. But it involves playing with these 2, 4, 6 shells, these 2 high safety looks. And going into this game, the Raiders played more single high safety than anybody else in the NFL, effectively. They play 80+% of their plays with a single high safety.
Yeah.
So you say, well, do we go with the plan that's working for everybody else, or do we go with the plan that's been working for us so far, but in theory is a much weaker way of playing the Chiefs? I theorized going into the game they would stick with what they knew, and that's exactly what they did. They played, what do we got here? 44, 57.
I see six passing snaps against 2 high.
Yeah.
For Mahomes.
Right.
So they cover 2, 4, or 6.
Right. Essentially, they played the same thing. They went 80% of their time with their single high safety. They showed the Chiefs exactly what they'd shown everybody else so far this season. And all of a sudden, these spaces that have not been there for Kansas City's offense were back again. Now, that doesn't mean that everything was perfect. Like, it still felt fragile, right? It still felt that the Chiefs' offense was only ever like a mistake away from struggling again.
Yeah.
But the Raiders they didn't make it hard enough for them to do that. So the Kansas City could keep putting up the points. And then the other side of this is the Chiefs' defense was really good. And the Raiders, for the third week in a row, just didn't look like the same offense. They struggled. But you have to look at this as just a bad coaching job.
See, I don't know if that's necessarily the case. Some teams just aren't built to do that. So, and someone mentioned in the comments, I think on our preview show too, that like Gus Bradley had some success in previous years when he was with the Chargers against the Chiefs. So it is just, when the teams that run the Seattle cover 3, The benefit of it is running it over and over and over again, repping it. You see you see everything. When you hear Richard Sherman break down the plays, you know it, and you know how to cover it. You know who's carrying what, and the communication, the whole thing. The benefit is the simplicity of knowing what you're seeing. This reminds me of a couple years ago. Remember the Steelers? Remember Brady and the Patriots would just crush the Steelers all the time. The Steelers are like, that's it. Bucs stops here. We're playing man coverage. We never play man coverage, but we're doing it. And that didn't work. They got absolutely...
I still think it was the right call, though.
They got absolutely destroyed. Because they didn't know. I remember talking to this is when Zach Robinson was in the company, and we were going through, okay, what are the challenges to playing man coverage? Well, as soon as you take a back and you throw them out wide, and now it's how do you adjust? How do you communicate? Who covers whom? What happens on switches and all that stuff? And if you're not used to doing that, there's problems. You and I were talking last night, too. The other part of this is Jonathan Abram, who was the inverse of what Daniel Sorensen had been, or the proxy for what Daniel Sorensen had been for the Chiefs, right? Attack that guy. Mahomes tried to throw a pick to Jonathan Abram, and he allowed it to be a 30-yard touchdown. He was targeted 9 times, 9 completions for 127 yards and 2 scores. Okay?
Which for a safety is like catastrophic.
Which is ridiculously tough to do as a safety.
Yeah,
to be that target. But what if Jonathan Abram is your split field safety?
Right.
What are you going to do? He is a box safety at best. He's not even a good box safety when it comes to coverage. He hits hard is what he does. But he's not a good coverage player. He had an absolute bullseye on his back. You don't either have the personnel to do this, or you just don't have the capacity. Like, that's just not what you do. You got to stay true to what you are.
I did tweet out that, like, the Raiders had this choice to make. You know, do you go with the game plan that works versus the Chiefs, or do you go with the game plan you've had that's been working, and they went the wrong way? And then immediately after that, Mahomes essentially throws the ball directly to Jonathan Abram, and he gets mossed in the end zone for a touchdown by a backup running back. And you're like, on the other hand, how much do you really want to put that guy in coverage every single snap? That being said, like, where is it written in stone that Jonathan Abram needs to be on the field for you?
No, he doesn't.
Like, Jonathan Abram, Clinton Dix is on this roster. He's one of those players that coaches don't really like because he has the habit of doing the Teddy business decision, but he's a safety, so it's a bigger problem.
True.
But, like, the dude's a good coverage player. So how about we just take Jonathan Abram's ass off the field and Clinton Dix is our half-field safety? You're telling me that's not possible?
And Trayvon Merrick is good. I mean, he's the guy on the other side.
So all of a sudden you have 2 really good coverage safeties, one of whom doesn't really care about tackling too much. Why not do that?
No, I get it.
Like, I understand if you need to play Jonathan Abram as one of your half-field safeties, you might have some pretty significant problems covering anything.
And here's why.
But there's nothing that says that needs to happen.
The reason why these things are problems is you don't have the horses to cover Travis Kelce one-on-one or to cover Tyreek Hill one-on-one. We saw Tyreek running free quite a bit. Again, he didn't have the Mahomes missed a couple big throws as well. So Mahomes finishes with 400 yards and 5 touchdowns. Still did not have a great grade in this game. Left a couple throws on the table. Got away with what should have been probably 2 interceptions. He throws one underneath that should have been intercepted, was dropped. He throws before the Jonathan Abram play, throws a bomb that was a dropped interception. The next play kind of throws it right to Jonathan Abram where Darrell Williams goes up and mosses him for the touchdown. I'm just saying this was another game where Mahomes took the underneath stuff and did a great job in that area, other than the one misread underneath. But when he went down the field, missed a couple throws, 1 or 2 nice big-time throws in there too. It was an up-and-down game for Mahomes, but this also felt like the turnover luck reverted back for the Chiefs in this one. Tyreek was running and just dropped the football, and it bounced right back up into his hands on one. Mahomes had 2 dropped interceptions. Yeah, it's 41-14, but you've been talking this whole show about, how does 1 or 2 plays affect things here? 1 or 2 of those turnovers at least makes it a little bit tighter before the Chiefs ran away with it in the end.
Yeah, I do think that, like, as much as this is going to be treated like, the Chiefs offense got right. And maybe it is. I mean, I said last week that the Chiefs offense feels like a soccer striker that's going through a goal drought. And the cliche of all they need is a goal. You just need one, and then the confidence is back, and everything is it eradicates the slump in one goal, right? It does kind of feel like the Chiefs offense could easily be right back on track based off one game. You just come out of this one game feeling good. The deep shots were there. Everything worked out. And no longer are we like worried about what happens when we're forced to play ugly again. So even if next week a team comes out with the too high look and the frustrating game plan, all of a sudden they're not playing with that like looming specter over their backs of like, oh, we can't do this. We can't execute a 12-play drive without turning the ball over. This is just on our way to disaster. We need to press for the deep ball. Like, it might well be that the Raiders just fixed the Chiefs and the rest of the NFL is going to be really mad if that's the case. But it did feel all the way through the game that we were like, this was actually still on kind of a knife edge in terms of one mistake and the Chiefs offense could easily go back in the tank.
Yeah, and even coming out of a game where they scored a ton, guys were getting open. Also have to mention, as the YouTubers reminded us, Deshaun Jackson fumble, man. What the heck happened there? Deshaun Jackson gets behind the defense, as he tends to do, catches the deep ball, and then Rashad Fenton's about 5 yards behind him, and instead of running away from him, toward the end zone, which counts for 6 points, he decided to run back into Rashad Fenton, who and then forced fumble.
I'm not a coach, as you know, but if I was giving Deshaun Jackson feedback in that play, I would have suggested that when he caught the ball, he continued to run towards the end zone for a touchdown.
Yeah.
And instead of, and not just sort of spinning in a circle and getting tackled and fumbling the ball away. It's a radical coaching point.
I definitely would have focused on I would emphasize turnovers.
Yeah.
Avoiding them on offense, achieving them on defense. That's what I would do as a coach.
I kind of get why he catches the ball and then determines that the dude running at full speed, like he's had to slow down and catch this ball. The guy running at full speed is going to catch him before the end zone. But I don't understand why that then required him to like stop, spin in a circle, and get tackled. Like, just cut hard away from the guy and maximize the amount of yardage you're going to be able to pick up before you get tackled. Like, players do that all the time. Just change your angle that you're running at, and he will eventually track you down. But, like, I don't understand what he did.
Yeah, me neither. There was also Derek Carr's interception too that he threw to Daniel Sorensen. It was almost like we've been joking, just find Sorensen, right?
Yeah.
That felt like a play where he was like, I listened to the PFF NFL podcast. I know I need to target Daniel Sorensen. He was staring him down the whole time, and he was under a little bit of pressure, and he was like, no, I'm going to do it. I'm going to attack Sorensen. I'm going to get there. And he threw it. He's getting hit while he's throwing it. He kind of knows he's going to get hit while he's throwing it, pops it up, and Daniel Sorensen with the redemption interception.
I don't know that I've ever seen a pass before have that trajectory. It's like, most passes, it's like a 7-iron, just there's enough of an arc on it to make it deep down the field, but it's not ridiculous. This was like a sand wedge where it just went straight up in the air, straight back down again into
Phil
Daniel
Mickelson's
Sorensen's
flop shot.
Yeah, like just nothing but wedge. Straight up, straight down, right into the welcoming arms of Daniel Sorensen, who didn't drop it.
No, he didn't. He had one later. Do you see the one Carr had later when he got hit under pressure too? It was like a punt that just landed in the middle of the field. Luckily, nobody was there. But second straight week, there was a couple big plays in there for the Raiders, mostly from Bryan Edwards, and then the Deshaun Jackson one. But they were just not as good as they've been in recent weeks. A little out of sync offensively. Do you credit the Chiefs' defense and what they're doing, or are the Raiders just taking a step back offensively now in these last couple of weeks? Only 14 points.
I think you have to credit what Kansas City's defense was doing. It was probably never as bad as it was looking. Like, earlier in the season, they had a pretty brutal run of going up against really good offenses. So there was a time where their statistics were like bottom in the NFL. They looked like the worst defense in the league statistically. And you're like, well, they're probably not that bad. But then the schedule eased up a little bit, and they were still playing pretty terribly. Like, well, maybe. But I think they've started to at least move in the right direction. Again, like, for years, their target is different from other teams. They don't need to become a good defense. They just need to not be the reason that their offense isn't able to win games. Now, that's the equation may be changing a little bit this year if the Chiefs' offense isn't what it used to be. But even through their struggles, they're still converting first downs at like a record high rate. They still have a really high rate of like points per drive and scoring rate and all those kinds of things. So in theory, the defense still doesn't need to get good. It just needs to not be a disaster. And this was one of those games where it showed that's the case. Like they've got players they can make plays. Chris Jones is still an impact playmaker. Melvin Ingram is potentially a significant pickup for them. Guys like your guy, L'Jarius Sneed, is capable of making plays.
Like we said, they've got personnel.
Right.
They've got enough personnel. They were an average defense last year with Spags. They were an average defense. It's not crazy to think that they were going to get back there and not be as disastrous as they were early in the season. That's
and also,
what they've done.
This was one of those games where all the little personnel moves we've been talking about that could potentially make them better happened in this game. Like Juan Thornhill had 49 snaps versus Daniel Sorensen with 24. Now, okay, Daniel Sorensen caught the interception that dropped in his lap, but the point is that ratio switched, right, from being all Daniel Sorensen to being all Thornhill with some Daniel Sorensen mixed in there. Like, little moves like that are, I think, pretty significant. Willie Gay had more snaps than Ben Neiman. Like, these are moves that should, in theory, be upgrades for this defense in the long haul.
Chris Jones also more snaps on the interior. Still lining up wide.
I don't understand why they're ever lining up wide.
I mean, I don't mind it as a changeup. But
what is it doing for you?
It's creating other mismatches. Like if you have they had Melvin Ingram playing like off-ball linebacker, rushing up the middle and all that stuff. I mean, if you're going to create other mismatches in other ways, that's fine. Like we've seen guys like Ndamukong Suh and who was on with Muhammad Wilkerson back in the day. Remember, they would be like edge rushers. They would put quicker guys on the interior and they would compress the pocket. And you can mix that up game plan wise. But if you're expecting Chris Jones to be a down after down edge rusher, that's missing the point.
It just doesn't feel worth it. Like you saw yesterday, you plug him inside, and even when he's not getting pressure, he's sticking his hands up and batting the ball down. Like he's not doing that from an edge rusher alignment. Like just leave him in the middle where he's one of the most disruptive, impactful players in the NFL, and just figure out edge rusher elsewhere. It's just not. I think overall it's always going to be a net loss, even if you're using it as a change-up. I just think there's less chance of that. There's less chance of somebody making a play when Chris Jones is on the edge than there is when he's inside.
Anyway, what a difference a week makes. The Chiefs are back on top of the AFC West.
Yeah.
And looking better offensively, looking better defensively. Huge game against the Cowboys next week. Looking forward to that one. Chiefs, Cowboys, and a lot of stuff happens every single week. That's why we talked about it for over 2 hours. Thanks to everybody for tuning in. We'll be back on Wednesday. What?
You really are in a rut with the old intro outros.
Yeah, we're going to have to work on this.
You're just drowning over here.
A lot of stuff happens. The football happened yesterday, and we just discussed it.
We did.
PFF, what's the promo? Thank you. Right there. NFL Pod. Why don't you take it out? I'm going to go work on my game.
Yeah?
Intros and outros. Wednesday. You guys tune in Wednesday because I'm going to have.
You're just going to sit in front of the mirror for the next 24 hours hitting the intro and the outro.
Yeah. It's like going to the batting cage.
Right. Or the
bullpen.
The court. Just shooting free throws just for the next 24 hours.
Yeah.
Just get yourself back in the groove.
I'm going to work on my intros and outros.
Yeah.
I'm going to nail transitions.
Oh yeah.
Those have been all right.
Yeah, no, it's
Manscaped read.
It's just your intro and outro.
Just in and out.
Yeah.
So creep back toward average first is what we want to do.
Right.
We're going to tune in Wednesday.
Just don't fall over your own feet. That's what we're shooting for.
Yeah, tune in Wednesday. It's going to be a great intro, outro day, and we'll talk some more NFL stuff.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well done.
Still in a slump. NFL Pod, 25% off. Go get it. Grades are coming in. See you on Wednesday. I'm out of here.